It's 3:01. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, we pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so roll call in attendance. We have all 5 members. We have Carol, Doug, myself, Ed, and Bob. I need a motion for the approval of the final agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go ahead and move on to public comments. And just as a reminder, 3 minutes.
No, I think I'm good. I'll text them in between. All right, I have 2 people who signed up to speak in the room, and then I have a letter that needs to be read in, an email at the end.
Okay.
First up is Marty Mantenfeld. He has 3 things. GSCDD assessment, resources being used for Lee County assets, and meeting on 1/4/24.
So good afternoon, Marty Mantenfeld, Pelican Preserve, Monticello. So I attended the last meeting remotely. So the Board of Supervisors has asked the staff to reevaluate the GSCDD rules on Chapter 6, which was approved 20 years ago, essentially assessing Pelican Preserve residents the same as other gateway properties. The staff should include in their analysis an evaluation of how the district will assume responsibilities for the Pelican Preserve Advisory Subcommittees for ponds, landscaping, and safety and security, because there will be no need for Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee. All those responsibilities should revert back to the district, and the district can handle the ponds and the landscaping. It would not be in the best interest of Pelican to continue with these subcommittees with volunteers. All those responsibilities should revert back to the district. Second item, you're discussing street lighting on the roads here. Pelican Preserve subcommittees are very diligent not to spend money on things that the district doesn't own, and they spend money only on district assets. How is it that the GSCDD spends money on Gateway Boulevard and Griffin Drive when those are county roads? They're not district assets. Third, January 24th, 2024, I stood up here at the public comment and asked for rules of engagement. When I sit in subcommittee meetings with multiple members of this board and 3 or 4 members of the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee, what can we discuss and what can we not discuss for things that have not come before any of the boards yet? For instance, FP&L lighting. So can I engage in those discussions at those subcommittees or not? Okay, I was expecting something from Tony, and it's been over 6 months, and I've received nothing from the board or Tony. I yield back my time.
Thank you. I do have one question, if you guys don't mind. So I know I said I wasn't going to ask questions anymore. So I'm breaking the own rule like right in. What is specifically on Griffin Boulevard and Gateway Boulevard that we are working on? Because it's not all or nothing. So I just want to make sure if you can tell me what are your concerns about those 2 items, Griffin and Gateway Boulevard County?
You're spending money on these lights. Who pays for the lights?
No, that was part of the agreement when we.
So
when we did a transfer
Who
over.
pays for the landscaping? Who pays for cutting the lawns?
We all those. So we're doing it because.
Why do you do that for
because-
county assets?
Because-
Do you repair anything in the
No.
wastewater treatment plant?
The reason why.
That's a county asset.
The
too.
reason why, so let me give you an answer. The reason why is because the board at that time, when they made that decision, that was part of the agreement. The same way that was part of the agreement on Gateway Boulevard, if the trees of the oak trees damage the sidewalk, we pay for it. If the sidewalk is just damaged because it's damaged, the county pays for it. So I get what you're saying it, and you literally have to go to that agreement. And if you see anything on that agreement that we're doing it, we should not be doing it. I totally agree with you. But as of right now, recollection, there is nothing outside of the agreement
Well,
that we're doing it.
Like the 20-year agreement that you have with Pelican Preserve where we only pay 14%, maybe you should revisit this.
We tried to revisit this agreement as of less than 6 months ago when Rod brought it up. So we did. They were, I would say
To the point of we had We got outside.
outside attorney to take a look at it, and it was not, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome. And I did send a thing to Tony. I forgot as well to follow up with you in regarding to some questions and clarification he had regarding sunshine law. I just sent it to Tony like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay, I briefly had some conversations with Marty at a prior
But if you can
board
just
meeting.
follow up with him.
Yeah, well, I'll give him a call, and
Okay,
again, I
perfect.
think I've said it many times, repeat it and reiterate it.
Thank
with
you.
regards
Maybe
to-
we'll just do it in writing too.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I'll give you, Marty, what's your phone number?
All right. I broke my own rule.
I'm
I don't
sorry?
like breaking rules. Yes, I do.
Okay,
That's what rules are for, to break.
68?
All right, who's the
Six,
next
four.
person?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, I have to recant. The one that needs to be read in is actually for the public hearing, so I only have 2 people. So the second one is Vince Lafredo regarding FY 2025 and 004 funds budget June Gateway financials.
Vince Lafredo, Stony Brook. I had a question. As I've gone through the numbers, you challenged me last year when you went through the budget process. I had to look over this thing, detail by detail, and I have, and I continue to do it. And there are 2 things that have come up. On the 004, since we don't have an advisory committee anymore, our group meets as an 004 committee. We gave the high water mark amount for fiscal '25. When I've looked at the final numbers, of course, the assumption is we still have the roads and waiting for a decision on that. And looking at the numbers by line, and there were 2 that I questioned. Some decisions were made on the road and sidewalk and street signs reserves that was taken out. However, there's 71,000 on O&M reimbursement. I have an issue with it. And when I read the line, explanation, gatehouse repairs, sidewalks, and street signs, I think the number's too high. I really do think this is one that we should work on. We didn't at one time have an O&M reimbursement. The line began several years ago. And I just think with the toning down of all the expenses that we have in the 004, which hopefully will go away, I just think that for our benefit of our residents, we need to give them a break. They've taken some big hits out of here in the 004, and they know they're going to take another hit when it comes to, of course, streetlights and the roads. The other issue here is the $9,000 of capital reserve. I have a problem with that also. We have, and Doug, you attended our town hall when we talked about roads, and we have established a fund specifically for roads. And at this point in time, we've jumped our reserves. So we're looking at attaining that 50,000 minimum per year on roads. I just think this 9,000 for capital reserve should be eliminated from this, unless you can tell me specifically what it's for. I just have a problem with it. I was going to do this by email, and I'm sorry, I have to bring it up publicly. Last but not least, I've looked at the financial overview through June. I love this, okay? This is something our community's really jumped on this year. You have a Stony Brook fund established as treasurer for my community. I need to explain to our people what that is. Have we followed every IRS guideline between a central development district and an HOA, taking our funds and making money on it? How is it allocated back to our community? And looking at the returns on this, because I heard Steve on this back in July, I thought it was wonderful. But then I started questioning, what is the Stony Brook Fund and where does it go and how do you accomplish the expense after you've accumulated all this money? I just think it's a solid explanation I've got to give to the community of Stony Brook. It's great that you're making this kind of money. We're looking at probably a 5% return, 4.8, which is great to take advantage of it when the interest rates are like this, which also coincides with when I've talked to you about water deposits and having that as a non-interest bearing. And this seems to go opposite of what the Gateway is doing. Thank you for the time. Hopefully I've hit a spot on especially as it concerns 004. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Address any of those comments, or you want to wait till the end?
I think we can address it at the end during the budget. That's all I got. Because,
Just make sure
I don't know. Yeah. On every single one?
Okay.
Yeah. If not, I'm pretty sure Vince will remind us. All right, so no more other public comments. Local achievements and recognition, do we have anything?
No, I don't.
No advisory committees items to report. Okay, approval of minutes.
Except that next Tuesday is the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting, and I cannot go to that. And I was wondering if somebody else would be able to go to that from the board.
What's the day on?
Next Tuesday, the 6th.
If nobody can, I will.
It's at 1:30 here, except the dentist wants me at 2 o'clock, so. Dentist wins, Parks and Rec loses.
You wanna come, Ed? Yeah.
Just real quick, I just want to make a quick comment. I could probably do it supervisor comments, but I just want to acknowledge, I don't know if it was Chelsea or Daniel or whose idea, but by putting that temporary fence up at the park this summer, we have almost eliminated foot traffic on the fields during the summer. We've tried other things in the past, putting signs up, putting the orange temporary, and we've always had people jump those, play on those fields, chase them all summer, which is almost counterintuitive to the work being done. But just by simply putting up that temporary fence, which still allows people to go to the playground,
Huge difference.
we have almost eliminated.
That's great news.
I mean, I'm over here a lot, and it was,
So the soccer field should be in good shape.
yeah, I mean, they're,
It's the
They're-
220
they're
volts.
getting there.
They're-
They're getting
yeah.
there.
It's the 220 volts he's got it tied to.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's such a small thing.
Hey, so he's a lot
But
out there.
great impact, so
Daniel and his staff, I will commend them for that idea.
great thing.
I do want to just bring to light that we have had some issues with quorum for some of our subcommittees. The last, specifically Safety and Security Subcommittee of PPAC, they haven't had quorum in 5 months. So that poses some challenges for us to get things done. PrAC normally takes the summer off, so no issue there. But if they're if they're choosing to have meetings and we don't have quorum, staff has invested time to prepare those agendas up to the date that we post it, only to find out that it's not happening because they don't have quorum.
Okay, I do have a question because I was at the last meeting and there was at Pelican and there was conversation about it. And I did have a conversation with Daniel and other staff, right? We don't have anything in the resolution for the committees that is said, it says if you don't attend a meeting 3 consecutive times, then you're out, or 4 times during the year, you're out. But it doesn't address if you don't have a quorum at all for X amount, then there is no need for it. So that's something that this board needs to establish. Like, if they're not meeting, obviously, their needs, they don't have a need for it, right? That's how I'm looking at it, because they're not meeting. What concerned me the most was having understanding of what their job is and what we require of them. I was shocked to hear, and I want to talk a little bit more about this with staff and you specifically, items that are being held up that we're not doing it because the committee cannot meet. We work on a budget, the 5 of us. The numbers are the numbers. I felt to me, and it was a feeling versus fact thing, do I talk to you more, that there are items that were not getting done because staff couldn't get done because of the committee. That was never the intent of this board, and if it was, then I was wrong. But my understanding is the committee, they're limited in what they do. But if something needs to be done, something needs to be replaced, and they cannot meet for 5 months and staff's not acting on it, that is not how it should be worked. So I do want to talk to you more about it because we didn't have enough time and I left town again. But that is not, the recommendations and all that. But to me, it's the ball is on their court. If they can meet, then they should be looking at it, replacing it all together, all the members. I mean, there are options. And it's like we're talking about 5 months of options. And nothing came to the board until I started attending those meetings and realizing that there is no quorum or there is no meeting at all. So.
Well, if we have budgets and actions need to be taken on expenses associated with budgets, I don't know why we don't have the authority of staff to go ahead and get those things paid and get them done.
We do, Ed,
We
but they're
should.
not getting done. That's.
Okay,
Let me chime in here. First of all, safety and security has only been functioning since October of last year. The problem of having people attend has been recognized, and I believe we've taken steps to rectify it. I don't think this will be a problem in the future.
Perfect.
One of the issues was the chairman was a snowbird. He was only here 3 months of the year. When you have a 5-member core group and he's not there, if anything else happens,
Yes.
that has been addressed. There are new members. We had a member that was on it that said he wanted to resign. He's reconsidered, he wants to be there. But I think we had that one behind us. Now to the issue of the budget numbers. PPAC always has always had the discretion of adopting things that didn't come from a safety or security subcommittee. They've been reluctant to do that. We're trying to encourage our people to participate. I don't think this will be a problem going down the road. We now have a very good and a very active chairman, and I think we have some active people that are going to be part of it. I totally agree with the comments. I think it's behind us.
We'll just hope that, so that I will take your word for it,
Yep.
and then we'll see it in the next month. But
That's
if
right.
that comes, I think this board needs to take a look at it. There
Well,
is-
PPAC will take a look at it. I mean, they should make a recommendation to us.
Well, 5 months, I'd expect the PPAC to be out here telling us that.
Oh,
But
I
I
agree.
agree with you as well. We'll wait until next month and the months.
I don't think
And if
we've
I could
ever
just-
had we've never missed a quorum that I know of on ponds.
I know,
And they've been functioning 15 years.
and I don't attend those.
landscape-
That's
well,
probably why.
but I hope
That's
you do.
probably why,
I hope
because
you do.
I feel
Yeah.
that, and Doug asked me that question when I met with him at Pelican.
And landscape struggled on the first couple of rotations, but now they're in their second year and they're rock solid and rolling. So yeah, it's a valid criticism of safety and security. But I also want to make sure everybody's aware of the changes of what was expected of them. Before they became constituted, they weren't doing roads. That was not part of their purview. There were a number of things that they really weren't even considering to do. But now they are doing them, and they haven't really gotten themselves completely organized enough, primarily because of sunshine laws. They want to move forward, but because we can't do things, it's what's come first, the chicken or the egg. But I think we have a path forward, and I'll just leave it at that.
And if I could just add in, they're starting also, when they come to their last agenda item, which is the date of their next meeting and anything on there, they're also asking who is going to be here for the next meeting.
Yes.
And so, I mean, and honestly, that's something we should do here too.
And
When
we
we
do- I
get
think
to
we
then,
do.
I mean,
I
we
think we'll
just
do.
ask, are
Yeah.
you going to be here at the next meet, physically be here at the next meeting? And the subcommittees and PPAC is doing that now also. So that way they'll know a meeting ahead that there will be a quorum for the next one. And yes, it's very frustrating to go to a meeting and not have a quorum there and
And
expensive.
We're paying for staff to be
And
there.
staff rightly has that criticism to make, absolutely.
I don't want it to be a criticism. It was just for awareness of the board that,
And it came, and I want to say, and I said this to Doug, it's me, it's staff. I was asking how we're operating, and staff owes me an answer, and that's the answer I got. And then I was like, I'm bringing this up to the board.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're done on that topic. I give Bob, let's just give them time to do that, but knowing that if that doesn't happen.
Well, I'm
you
trying to
already
keep
know what I
myself,
said.
no, I'm trying to keep myself out of them. I really
All
am. If you did the last meeting,
Yeah.
I didn't open my mouth. That's difficult
You
for me.
did.
I'm kind of like Ed. I always have something to contribute.
You did, I appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead and move to approval of the minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Say who it was, because Maryland's.
Carol-
addressing those.
Carol made a motion, and then
I'll take it.
Doug second, and it was 5-1, 5-0. Consent agenda items, anything to pull?
I'd like to talk about C and E just briefly.
I wanted to talk about E also. Go ahead.
Okay,
So I make a motion to approve A, B, and D.
A second.
we have a motion by Doug, second by Ed, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take C.
See, real quick, like, if it's FPL's easement that they're doing the laydown agreement, why do they need us?
it's an access easement. It's not a lay down yard easement. So it is our land. We own it. They have access to it. They don't have right to use it as a staging area, which is what they're doing.
Okay, that was it. Second one is the establishment of goals and objectives. There were some typos in there. One that was pretty blatant was for the sanitary sewer deal. We're going to do it to make sure all the potable water lines are okay.
No, that was a copy and paste. My fat fingers
I
on
think it
that
needs
one.
to be sewer lines. And then the other one is that I was thinking more along the line that goals and objectives, that I thought that what the statute was trying to get to is things are touchy-feely, like we're going to do so many feet of pipe cleaning, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. These were more like wishy-washy type
Generic.
deals.
General.
Or generic
yeah.
for a
Generic.
reason.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, yeah,
For a reason.
for a reason.
Yeah.
Don't
You
tie
can update
yourself
them
down.
next year. You can update them next year.
Okay.
You want to do percentages?
That's my only comments.
Anything else on,
No, I just kind of thought they were kind
Okay.
of wishy-washy also.
all right, so then I need a motion for the consent agenda.
So
items.
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ed, second by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
I was looking for shoes. Admin agenda items, okay.
We have Scott with Pearl Brands here to give a presentation regarding 11A.
And thanks to the wonders of technology, I do not have the presentation to pull up. We lost our server and internet during this, so no, I really don't have it. It's right here, but I can no longer get to it.
Well,
It won't allow you to pull it up from the agenda
I'm
book?
trying to get it, yeah, that's why I asked Randy to email it to me, so let me see if I can pull it out of Outlook. Give me just a second. I'm trying to do like 47 things at one time and keep the meeting going.
Oh,
so.
my God.
That's it, just a normal day. Maybe.
I guess I can tee up what Scott's going to present. So we started discussing, just Randy Paniagua for the record, started discussing the rebranding April 2024. Since then, we came up with 8 designs, and that's what he's going to be presenting today. July, we did a survey of staff and of the board members, and then we had some participation in that on that end. Those results were then given to Scott.
Hopefully you can hear us. Thank you for patiently waiting while we work through our IT issues. We should be back up and running.
Oh, I'll take it home.
All
No, we're
right.
not taking it home, I'll give you the,
I had the presentation.
drinks are really nice.
I don't know why they gave it to me. I mean, I don't really need.
I get chili cheese-free toads in
good
there.
afternoon.
Find me some.
Thank you guys for having me out and presenting to you today. All right, so what we're going to look at today are some logo ideas. But before we get to the logos, I want to give you an idea how the development process of how we got there. So we're going to look at the brand audit as it relates to the logo development. Some of the things that we did in preparation to get into the logo development, we had meetings and conversation with stakeholders. We did several inspiration visits to the community where we drove around, got out, looked around, looked for visual cues and inspiration. We developed a brand survey to gather board member and key stakeholder input, which many of you are familiar with, you took part in. And then we took the survey responses, we analyzed them for common themes and key insights. So some of the survey insights that we got relative to logo development. We asked what the current gateway brand perceptions are. And the common response came out, it was viewed as outdated and there's a lack of brand awareness. We asked what some of the desired attributes in any new branding might be. And we learned that there's a desire for natural elements, oak trees specifically, and modernizing the logo. And you'll see throughout this, we hear a theme of modernizing the logo quite a bit. We asked about colors and symbols. There's a call to modernize the color palette. Certain symbols like the griffin and oak trees were seen as iconic. I have to do a sidebar here. The feedback we got on the griffin, we had both positive and negative feedback. So you got to take that into consideration. We inquired about historical references in the gateway branding. We found their support for retaining certain elements like the griffin or using oak trees to maintain continuity and recognition. When asked about desired perception by newcomers, learned that it wanted to be classy, upscale, welcoming, and community focused. And then also asked about the objectives of the rebranding. Modernized and distinguishing from other communities is what we learned. So we took that input. The brand audit was much bigger than that, but this is all information that we used relevant to developing the logo. So from that, we gleaned that we're going to set out to modernize the visual identity. We want to introduce a refreshed logo that utilizes elements like oak trees, natural elements, and possibly the griffin. We want to use cleaner, more contemporary colors to replace the outdated green and yellow. There's a lot of resistance to the current green and yellow.
So we explored a couple of ideas in forming the logo. One of it is we wanted to express the idea of community. Gateway is a community made up of a bunch of different communities. So we came up with the idea, well, all of those parts come together to make a whole. So we looked at symbolizing community through parts completing a whole. All right, so some of the benefits, I'm sorry, I wasn't telling you to turn the page.
We're following along.
Okay.
We got this.
Chelsea's telling me for you. It's all good.
So some of the positive things that can come out of using the parts to make a whole is you show unity and collaboration. You're depicting separate parts forming a whole highlights the importance of unity and collaboration among the different communities within the district. Another thing is shared goals and visions. A whole shape formed by the parts can represent shared goals and the vision of the community. And third, interconnectedness. The logo can highlight the interconnected nature of the communities, showing how they depend on and support each other. Another idea we explored. We want to depict positive themes using natural elements such as leaves, branches, or oak trees. Some of the positives for this, and this specific to oak trees, strength and stability. Oak trees are known for their strong and enduring nature. It can also show community and connection. Trees can symbolize a sense of community and interconnectedness. Growth and renewal. Leaves and branches can represent growth, renewal, and continuous development, reflecting the community's focus on progress and sustainability. And finally, nature and environment. It emphasizes a connection to nature and environmental conscientiousness. All right, so next we're going to get into looking at the options that we came up with. First one, we took and highlighted the name Gateway by using the symbol G and merged it with a natural element of an oak tree. I don't know how long you want to hover on these each, but
Just go through, let's go through them, we'll have our comments at the end.
okay.
Or you want to just go to the last page? We can see all of them on one page.
Let him explain, and then we'll go quick through those,
Okay.
and then we'll get to it. Sorry. She's trying to jump to the end. I gave her 6 points.
Because I think that's what you want. I like to the point.
Well, I swear the end, I think that's for the end.
It's however you guys want to
Because
do
you
it.
can still go over
It's
one by
his
one
presentation.
at a glance,
Let him
yeah.
do his presentation.
Okay.
What would you like me to do?
We can hop to them, that's fine. Yeah. And discuss each one.
Because you're still going to discuss, that's what I'm saying. We can see all of them when
Sure.
you're talking instead of looking one at a time. There we go.
Okay, so the themes that you can see we use the natural elements, parts, pieces and parts coming together to form a whole, interconnectedness with the tree branches, and finally down the lower right, we took a look at reimagining the griffin and what that might look like.
Do you want some feedback from
start?
us? Yeah,
You ready?
we're ready. Bob, looking at the items that you have there, do you have a preference? I won't
Well,
ask
I
you.
guess my first comment would be, how much is this going to cost, and is it really worth changing?
What are we physically doing other than letterhead? What are we physically doing that we're going to put this?
I
Right.
think the monuments, I thought we already had this
On new
discussion, and
monuments?
that's the reason why we're here today.
So just
On new monuments?
two
Yeah.
things, it would be
On everything.
the logo
The new
that we
admin
would
building.
use moving forward, so we would adopt wherever we land. But I want to back up. This iteration is a first pass. Like, this is like, you would be, if we were going through building design, this would be, what, 20%, 30%, design review. So what we're looking for here is input. What do you like? What do you not like? It's not like we have to pick one of these today. Now, if there was
You
one,
can
that'd
if you
be-
want.
that would be great. That would be great. But it's to understand the methodology behind the brand redesign, and two, to get our feel on, we want to maybe change a little bit around, whatever, what's our feel, do we like this shape or this logo? And then they would go back and continue to, hopefully, I would say, come back with 3, just like we did with the fountain. You know, we made changes. But from there, where we landed is we would adopt whatever the new logo is, it would replace the existing logo today. The Pearl would come back with a style guide and color palette, and we would start to absorb that into things like the new administrative building or whatever.
Yeah, I can't get over for spending money we don't have to. Now, if you ask my opinion, I kind of like the Griffin, so I take the lower right. That's just me. I also like the lower left. But, you know, that's where I'm at. But I sure want to know what it's going to cost me before I decide to
Well,
spend the
at this
nickel.
point, Chelsea,
You just make that decision. how you
there's no
like.
cost associated.
Well, if it's
more
all
than
free,
what we've
I
already done.
love them.
Yeah, we've already paid for this.
Yes.
So the only additional cost in the future would be, you know, how
Randy,
are we going to change the
To implement.
monuments or to
Yeah.
implementation or
which
whatever.
the easy things we obviously would do in house. Randy would take on the majority of them, website, letterhead, things like that. But when it comes time to actual physical updates, part of this is the new admin building. What colors do we want the interior walls to be, exterior walls, the logos, things like that, instead of having to do it twice, because
And then-
we don't want to do it twice, right, Bob?
My biggest thing is the delay
I'm
of
not sure I want to do it once, but okay.
Well, my biggest thing was the delay on a true repair on those monuments that we have out there, because I know they were not even done, and I was the one complaining. I'm like, this is not done right, and the explanation for us was, let's not spend the money now if we're looking at this.
Okay.
Because to be honest, with no exceptions, like if you visit all the locations, they are falling apart. You can no longer paint them. So the board last year, when we started talking about this, was let's hold, let's not repair it, and if we're gonna change it in the future, so let's spend the money on once. So the majority of those, they're, you know, in bad shape. And then I do, me personally, there's 2 monuments that I think we should just get rid of it.
Agreed. So ultimately, Scott's looking for feedback
Okay.
on these logos, the colors, designs, things like that.
So
Okay, I like G the best because the trees, the gateway, you know, the trees overarching, it's this, on the bottom,
This one?
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one. I'd like to see you
Which one?
put maybe a little
That
path
one, the
behind
gateway,
it,
yeah.
so you get the idea gateway. But I mean, you go down Gateway Boulevard and there are places there where the trees kind of form a
Canopy.
little gateway like that. So I thought that that was the most appropriate, in my opinion.
And then
That
we
was
can
the
show
most
broken
appropriate one.
utilities underneath it.
The other one I liked was B. I think on the top row, the second one in. I think it's simple, it says it, and I know Gateway loves their trees. So, those, for whatever it's worth, those are my 2 opinions. I like G first and B second.
I do want to call.
And I don't like the Griffin.
Look
I don't know
at
what it
the
means.
fonts of the words too.
Because you can take the
I want
font
you
from
guys
one
to
to
share
build
this,
another.
because
But,
I must speak to the
okay, Doug,
Now, I'm just curious so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm fortunate to have a digital arts and science major for a son, and I've gone through this in my career. I've gone through it a couple times, so I really like this kind of concept. One, I think it's great looking at different, you know, concepts. My feedback is there is 3 that I lean towards, which is D, which is the number 4, top right quadrant with the branch with the leaves. I liked, what number is it? G, which is the gateway with the tree. However, if you look and see what I gave, I think what I don't like about that is it doesn't look like an oak tree. It looks like an arch that just has some branches. The example that I gave, if you could adapt it to look more like our oak canopy,
Just separate them.
or, you know, just like,
Just put a
Like
break
this.
between them.
instead of this.
or just
yeah.
make it look more like an
It looks like
oak
a road.
canopy.
That looks like palms, but
Well, again,
if you separate them, I
You
think
give
they
him
look
an
like-
idea.
You get the idea.
but the idea is make them look more oak-like to represent our canopy. And then the gateway for me, I mean, the griffin, I'm okay with that. It's a little busy with all the colors. I think that was part of my issue is we're going from really just green, maybe with some yellow. But I think with the 4-color palette, it's a little too busy for me. I gave an example of maybe if we could simplify that to 2-color hues, the blue and green, and just gradient, and those in between. It's a little bit more of a muted tone, but that's kind of what I like. So if I were to give my input, I'd say there's the 3 that I would look at is G with the archway, but make it look more like an oak canopy. The Griffin, if you could maybe do that same thing, maybe color gradient that a little bit between the blue and the green. To me, it's just a little busy with all the colors. And then D, instead of the 4 colors, again, gradient between a blue and a green, it just maybe looks a little cleaner to me. But I think it's a good start. The ones that I don't like, I'll just be very honest. So I'll show you what's up on the screen. So the gateway with the G and the one that Carol likes, the tree, to me, that tree doesn't look like an oak tree, kind of looks a little elementary. So I don't like those 2. The one with the oak leaf, it's not bad, but I just don't think people would really associate that leaf to being an oak tree that would associate with oaks and gateway. And then the archway, for me, it's just too busy. And then the one that's supposed to be, I guess, oak leaves come together, to me, when I look at it, I see hands, and it just doesn't resonate. But that's my feedback.
Okay. Something you want to keep in mind too about a logo is you can't get too, like your example of the oak trees above the one that I did, you can't get too intricate with it because of all the applications.
Yeah. To me, it's just more, the concept is if it just looked a little bit more like 2 oak trees and a canopy, as opposed to, it looks like you drew an archway. I'm not trying to critique, I'm saying the way I look at it, looks like there's an archway with branches coming out of it, as opposed to 2 natural trees forming a natural archway. It's just the way I interpret it.
Okay.
Maybe we ought to have the gateway griffin on one half of it and the pelican on the other half. It's all one
Oh, you
gateway.
don't want to break away?
It's all one gateway.
Well, he did talk about that interconnectivity right here. It's like, see, like, those are the outside of the gate, those are Pelican, that's Gateway, and
I
that's
don't see any pelicans, I
Arborwood.
just
And that's
see-
Arborwood, it's all there. You
I
just
just
gotta
see
look
leaves.
and-
Actually, but you do bring up a good point.
Actually, could you just put a pelican on top of the
Flying
the
over,
thing and-
jumping in
Yeah.
some money, that would be great.
Pelican on the back of the griffin.
Okay, sorry.
Moving
You
on.
have no, yeah, no, okay. For me, I will go with, I am not an artistic person, so whatever, I'm gonna be very honest. I'm black and white, 0 and 1s, so whatever the majority of the board wants is what I'm gonna go with when it comes to this. My only thing is, I want us to take in consideration the color scheme of the fountain.
That's what I was gonna say.
That is my only thing, and I think that it wasn't ready when you started this. So take a look at that color schemes. I mean, I know we can paint the concrete, but not necessarily the tiles. And I think it's something, it's more modern, and it's something that when we look at the admin building, it's kind of the color schemes that we're thinking.
Continuation.
So I think that is.
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of,
which is
similar
I
to what.
did it
you
by
have.
accident because I took the blue that you had already incorporated and just
Yeah.
went off
So
that.
that's my.
And as I was driving here today, I'm like, oh, if we stay within the blue tones, it actually works in, or if you stay with the blue and the green, it still works with the
Right.
fountain, if
Well,
we incorporate the blue.
I said it funny, at first just to be funny, but we ought to do something that would make Pelican feel like they're part of the community.
Well, I
I
think,
don't-
I
I don't
think
know
as a
what that would
second,
be, but-
well, that's what I said, you brought up a good point. I think as a secondary, what we could do is, we won't do it in this project because you probably need additional funding, but you would have Gateway and then, Pelican and Gateway or Stony Brook, or like other associations could incorporate
okay.
their sub-communities logos into the greater Gateway. Because like Gateway Greens uses the Griffin. I mean,
We
the
get
club.
confused all the time. And that is that was my big push to go away from the Griffin. I think Carol made a point. Nobody knows what it is, number one.
I didn't know what it was.
And number two, we get calls and people stopping in all the time regarding HOA issues. And so
It kind of looks like Game of Thrones on this new one.
Yeah, it's
The
definitely
dragon.
modern. It's a modern twist.
That one
to
doesn't
what we
look
have.
like it, but
That's exactly.
Is there anything that, like, what I don't like all the colors. I think it should be 1 or 2 with a gradient. And I don't like, some of it where it looks like the mosaic that just looks too busy. That's what I don't like. Is there certain things in the logos that you guys don't like? Is what you do like is just as, what you don't like is just as important as what you do like to give them direction.
Well, I think the gateway with the Griffin is outdated. First of all, we have a school, we only had a school here, and we had the Griffins. Now we got a new school, and it's got a different name. So I think it's not applicable anymore, and I think it needs to be refreshed. I like the G, certainly. I think the easy way of the G is to separate the trees and make them like they have a true arch. Other than that, I like G.
You like G because it's Gateway Greens with the green G.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
G is
If I'd
one.
have done that, I would have want the other one up here on the number A with 2 G's,
You know,
or a
but
G and a
maybe,
P. That is your answer, we put a G and a P.
Gateway
but maybe
Preserve.
on G.
No, I like G.
Maybe on G, the gateway, the word gateway could be in that blue,
Yeah.
rather than the.
So that was my feedback, and I
Rather
think that's
than the
what Ed's
brown.
feedback
Yeah.
is.
I mean,
So
brown
like
is
the-
kind of,
Figured-
Seem like
yeah.
a blue.
And
Yeah.
I definitely like the idea of the continuation of the color of the fountain. I don't want to say go back to the drawing board and make our logo something related to the fountain.
No, but
I
just
mean, that's
color
not-
scheme
It's not that
related.
that
Yeah.
iconic. The oaks are, that's iconic for
So,
Gateway.
so are we saying, like, the Griffin itself, we want to abandon that?
I don't want to abandon.
I just think it's out.
I want to abandon.
I would abandon.
I thought
So-
you were going to go with the group.
I'm going,
So
there was
why don't we
two
do this?
yes
If we
and
say
one
there's
else. I
three-
went with the most.
If there's
Man, did you switch fast?
No,
if there's
it's-
three, we're going to narrow down to.
I do the math. Two
Why
said
don't
no,
you
and I go
do-
with the most.
Right,
Why don't we
what's,
narrow it down?
what's something that he could build upon so he could come back and present
Yeah,
that
so
later?
if
Are
we
gonna
narrow
give
down to
public
three,
input?
three would
He already
be,
did. That's
based
part
on,
of
based
the
on
conversation.
feedback,
Who do you go to?
based on feedback, it would be G with the, tweaking the tree so it looked more like
Anything
oak,
about it.
changing the color of the gateway to a blue. D, again, if you use my example, either a blue gradient or a blue to green gradient with whatever font. I kind of like the C font.
I like
And
the C
then-
font.
And if, to appease Bob, if you want to maybe take another stab at the Griffin itself, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with abandoning it, but, if we're looking for three, that would be three.
Okay.
Are we all-
So we want to relook at the Griffin, even though a lot of people want to abandon it.
So that's what I was saying. I don't want to waste time. Like if you,
I'm
I'm
not interested in it.
Carol.
But Doug and I were both open to it.
No, but-
Flavia doesn't have a vote.
But the Griffin is probably third on my list.
So it's a, we just need a yes or no. You won't hurt his feelings.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I would look at D and G and rework those.
Okay, so no Griffin. I'll give you something.
I'm used to losing, don't worry about
This
it.
one,
So don't worry about Griffin.
I'm not sure I want to spend any money on
D
it
and
at all.
G.
It's a
this
fun
one, the
discussion.
branch one, and then this one.
Separate him.
Now, and I didn't pay much attention, but there are there's two different fonts or three?
3, 4. I thought it was 4.
I kind of like this one. I looked at it was like this.
The
with
C?
font underneath the Griffin. I slid that underneath the trees, and it's like I played around with the different
Yeah.
fonts.
I
too,
kind of
so-
like the C font.
I do have a question about G and the comments of separating the oak trees. The whole reason for putting the oak trees together like that, A, that's how they really are on the road. And B, that's how it forms a gateway.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't know if
Not-
that's what Ed was
Maybe
saying.
not so cartoon-like and more like realistic-like. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
did you
looking
see
for?
what he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's just,
prefer to keep it so we have the idea of a gateway, but I can modify it to look more.
yeah, my input, and I'm not sure about everyone else's, is to keep the arch look, but just make it look more like two oak trees. Like if you, when you drive out of here, you'll see how the oak trees
Just have
bleed
branches
together.
touching, yeah.
Yeah, it just looks like two oak trees merging
then can you
together.
This,
put
this
like
here looks
a
like one
little
tree
path?
over an arch.
I can explore that, sure.
A little
bumpy
path underneath?
Pelican is
just
in the
so
middle
we
of
say,
doing
yeah,
this.
This is the gateway to a good life if you live in Gateway.
Yeah. Pelican is in the middle of doing this right now, and all they decided to do was change colors.
Yeah.
Just refresh colors.
Yeah.
Out at the main entrance or on
Everywhere.
Colonial? or-
Everywhere.
At Colonial?
Do you think you have enough?
We're doing all
I
of
think
them
so.
on repainting. And it does look nice. I mean, it's same
So,
as it's always been.
One
with new
last
colors.
question, and I didn't have enough for everyone, but you guys can see. So there's, what it is, I just looked at colors.
Do you want?
No, I have the one. So there's one example here that's just gradients of blue. And there's one that goes from gradients from blue to green. Do you guys have a preference? Do you just want to do variations of blue, or do you want to do blue and green?
I don't want
Aside
to
from the
do,
fact that I'm colorblind, I don't care.
I don't want to do variations of blue because then that limits our color palette to the admin building. Personally, I'm a bright color person, but
That yellow color is
Yeah.
absolutely horrible looking to me.
So are you good with the gradient from blue to green that gives us a two?
Blue
I
to
want
green's
to,
fine.
I want multiple options for colors.
Yeah, yeah.
DG,
Okay.
and then potentially exploring.
I don't see a difference in the color.
Yeah, yeah,
Yellow to me.
I don't like that at all.
I don't have a blue green.
I think what Chelsea's saying is she could at least here, but also you can keep an option with the multicolors that you already have as well.
So what's
So,
the next
you know, what
step?
you
Is he
have
gonna
there,
go
the
back?
multicolors,
Yeah, he'll go
come
back,
back
and
tweak it.
explore
Tweak it,
and
come
randomly
back.
pull these colors. There's not
And when are we gonna
method
determine
other
what the
than
cost of
this
it?
one's like.
I mean, assuming we adopt it.
Right,
This
right,
one's
just
like-
to show
Cost of
definitive.
what?
It's not a
We're doing our
true
mind.
transition from.
That'll come at a later date. We'll have to get proposals and everything.
Who did we talk to in the
So you
community?
gotta
Because
talk-
nobody
is that-
I know
yeah.
knows anything about it.
I don't know. I think
Who did we talk
we
to?
sent it to you guys. I don't know. We didn't send it out to the community, did we?
No.
No,
Did we send it out to the
No, staff
associations?
and- It went to staff
and the board.
And the board.
Should go to President's Council.
And then, well, ultimately, what should happen is after you come back next iteration, we should have a couple, options. Then I think we share that with the President's Council because we'll have we'll be closer to what, based on our impact. And then we can start to socialize that.
If they'll show up.
Right.
One point to bring up, we just painted all of those monuments gray and black, and I don't know if that's maybe a color palette with the blues or something that we want to add in.
I mean, if you want to mix that gray or that dark.
I am not the artistic person. I'm gonna rely on Scott for that, so.
Grayish is the new
Blush, it
color.
doesn't sound
Yeah.
like it would work, but I can certainly
Okay.
explore it.
I mean, that's just paint.
Yeah. All right, Scott, are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We ready to go on?
Yes.
FY '25 budget.
What was that?
Wait a minute, can Marty just make his comment?
Ed's running the meeting right now.
Ed, can Marty make his comment?
I don't understand why.
Marty, come to a mic if you're gonna provide a comment, please.
Marty Mantonfeld, Monticello. So I don't understand why you don't identify all the communities that make up Gateway somehow.
How would we do that?
Well, you can have it as leaves on an oak tree.
53 of them. Might be something to
Good
try.
point, though.
Something to try. Going on. Item B, fiscal year '25 budget discussion. The big one we have is that Stony Brook brought up. Did somebody get those written down of what the
Flavia?
suggested changes were?
So I will, if I can address that. So just like everybody else, we'll reach back out to the Stony Brook HOA and see if they have any further edits to theirs. And talking with Laura based on her review of the O&M line item that he.
71,000 for O&M.
It cannot go away. That's how we reimburse them for the expenses that they're doing on our behalf. But it can be reduced based on expenditures. But we will reach back out to the Stony Brook HOA and see if they have any further revisions of their budget.
And then
That's
make
sort of a
those,
high water mark.
Yeah.
And I did get the Stony Brook budget, similar to the Pelican budget, came from Stony Brook. Those numbers were
Okay.
from them.
well,
so.
keep in mind, all of these budgets, the only way they can go is down,
Right.
so we can't
Right,
add
but
anything.
based on reimbursement that I've been giving them over the last, since we started doing this in January, we can reduce that 71,000.
And the 9,000 capital reserve, I mean, whatever the number is, it's either spent or it's not spent.
I think that was the board's direction to have that be put in there.
We
So
did, okay.
last year when we started with the high water mark and had capital reserve and they were matching what we were doing, and then we said with this roadway thing, we would drastically reduce it, but they still needed to contribute a nominal
So
amount.
this puts.
That's
that
a
up.
carry forward. Now, if you don't want to put any reserves for them,
Hear what they say,
so
hear what they say.
we will reach back out to them.
Okay.
Any other, from the workshop, I don't think we had any other even suggestions to come forward.
No.
for the
Well,
board.
I had a couple staffing suggestions, but they
So-
haven't been
so-
well received.
And then you guys and Stony Brook are going to come back for our 15th meeting with any changes we have to make. That's that's drop dead day.
Yep.
You know.
One, I don't know if this is the time when you want to bring up Arborwood, but we need a decision made
Oh,
on
thank you.
Arborwood.
Yes. Yeah. there's not much of a decision to be made. The issue is that under our current rules, Arborwood qualifies for the exemption. And the problem is that it amounts to about $86,000, $87,000. And the only way we can get it is to transfer it from reserves. We can't take it out, because if we take it out, we won't have any money to pay it with.
So we're talking $17 a home a year. That's what the 86 comes to.
Well, there's 143 homes and it's $86,000 is what we're losing in revenue.
Can I just, a quick question to
But
Tony
if you
on
put,
that?
but you put the 86,000 in Greater Gateway, 5,000, it increases the Greater Gateway individual homes a total of $17 a year.
Hey, Ed, just to,
No,
No,
it's
because-
$86,000 that is coming out of the budget of revenue that they aren't going to contribute.
Correct. Which means the 86,000 is now paid by Gateway.
Out of
And there's
revenue.
5,000 homes in Gateway, so it comes to $17 a year per home.
But we can't raise them. We're over the max
So,
already.
That's
so
a
then what
different
we,
issue.
so what we have to do is look at the budget and see where can we cut that is not an infrastructure or needs of that amount of money.
So
wait, we have to back
17,
up for a second.
17,
We have to back up. We have to confirm, and I can't remember if we did this on the last meeting. We have to confirm that based on the interlock agreement that Pelican currently falls under, does Arborwood, based on Tony's, counsel.
I haven't heard that yet. That's a
Yeah.
good question.
I asked that.
Does Arborwood fall under the interlock agreement as it's currently stated that Pelican falls under as well? Because the
And
interlock is
But
the,
it doesn't say that. It says a discrete area that satisfies these requirements and is not connected directly to Gateway Boulevard or Griffin Drive.
Is there something
And they
wrong with
meet
Tony
those.
opining on it?
I
Huh?
didn't-
Is there something wrong?
yeah, because
or inappropriate?
before we adopt
Yeah.
that, legal,
Let's find
council
out
has to
from Tony.
say that
Yeah.
Arborwood falls within the same agreement standards as we have currently established with Pelican. If it does, then we have to admit it.
It
If,
should have been done 2 years ago. That's the problem.
The board has the ability to make that determination, taking into account all the factors in that budget philosophy rule. And I think what's also important is if I'm trying to bring it up, the adopted 2020 assessment methodology report mentioned Arborwood and mentioned Worthington. And I'm trying to get the exact language now with regards to that, bear with me, as to what components of the budget Russ's report approved by the board believed would be appropriate for Arborwood. I'm trying to find that. Carol, I think I gave you my copy.
Yes.
Uh, I think this is
I asked that question.
I think this is the final adopted
If the
version.
resolution said Pelican only, I told you that, I'm just, no.
Oops.
While he's doing that, can I just give a little background so the public has some knowledge of it? So
Do
ul-
we have a map of Arborwood?
we can pull one up.
Okay.
What did you say, Carol?
a
Do
map.
we have a map of Arborwood?
So back in 2021, I think we decided 2021, 2022.
2020 was the assessment methodology.
2020
Yeah.
is when the report was written.
Correct. But when Arborwood came online and we started assessing the general fund fees, Arborwood pays into the general fund, Arborwood Phase 3, which is the only part of Arborwood that is within the district bounds. And that was the latest build out, the last build out. So Arborwood paid into the general fund. So they paid for Parks and Rec.
143 homes of Arborwood.
Yes, 140, that's all it is, Phase 3. They paid into the general fund, which includes roads, admin, waterway management, parks and rec, pool, et cetera. And so we realized this year, after reviewing this interconnectivity rule that has been on the books for 20 plus years, that that rule did not specifically call out Pelican, C5, all of these entities. It had a blanket statement. So in reviewing that, Arborwood, depending on how this board decides, may be exempt from, that rule may apply to them, which then they would not pay.
Correct.
They would not pay for the roads and or parks and pools. They would pay their portion of admin and waterway management. So that calculations based on this year's budget would be a reduction of $85,000 collected revenue to the general fund, which we have to make that up because our budget isn't going to change if it's 100,000. It's what we're collecting. We're not going to meet that 100,000, whatever that number is, that 85,000. So we have to make that up from somewhere. And speaking with Stephen Bloom, the only place to make that up is the transfer out of reserves.
And Doug, the reason I say didn't need that is that we have already done it at C5, and there was no ruling done by this board.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a PowerPoint that Russ prepared, it was presented to the board in January of 2020, January 23, 2020. And it talks about analysis of Pelican Reserve, Arborwood Phase 3 in Worthington. And it mentions that Arborwood Phase 3 has no access to the Gateway community, so it does not benefit from its roads, parks, and recreation. Its water management system flows into Pelican Reserve Water Management System, so it's recommended that their units count towards the Pelican Reserve ERUs. That was in Russ's report. Now, in his PowerPoint, and now in the actual methodology that was adopted, I believe I have the correct one of May 7th, 2020. I think that's the correct one. I'm trying to bring it up. It says it's not connected internally by a road to the Gateway community, currently under development. Until it is developed, a detailed determination as to its benefits cannot be calculated at this time. It is considered a vacant parcel like all of the vacant parcels in Gateway. So the board has the discretion, can't be arbitrary and capricious, but discretion utilizing and applying the factors in the rule to make a determination as to whether or not Arborwood benefits from certain of those systems and facilities and infrastructure. The properties do. It's not a matter of use. Whether you use it or not is not relevant. It's whether or not the properties benefit from the district's facilities and or services.
And I believe there is a
Whether they're in or
benefit.
out is a decision for the board.
Yeah,
Well, and I believe there is a benefit. We just don't know the percentage of that benefit.
but you don't need to have a percentage, that's the question.
The issue is we have a methodology, and what happened is we failed to follow it 3 years ago. We need to get it corrected.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anybody's arguing that.
But we can't amend the rule because the rule's the rule. So we have to live with what the rule says.
No. What he just read was.
Now, we talked about this last week.
Okay,
The
we're
issue
talking
is
about
that
it
to
again now.
change the
Can I speak?
rule, you
Can I
have to have an
speak?
amendment.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Thank you. What I heard the attorney say was, in 2020, it hadn't been determined because they were all undeveloped.
Correct.
Okay.
And so was C5.
So, okay, we're talking Arborwood. Let's not mix apples and oranges. So it hadn't been determined. Now it's appropriate, since it is developed, to make a determination. But in the meantime, somehow we did start assessing it. That may have been an error, may not have been. But it's not an ironclad one or the other. It was subject to this, what this board decides to do.
Yeah.
Did I state that appropriately, Tony?
Yes, sir, the board, again, if I recall correctly, I believe Russ had that reference, and he knew about the budget philosophy rule at the time. And again, you notice how he mentioned, at least that May 7th version, or excuse me, the January 2020 version of the PowerPoint references those criteria. In the final report, I believe the final report is May of 2020. And so that's when he made that analysis. It's vacant now. We need to determine it in the future. Apparently, a determination may have been made at a staff level.
Somebody did it,
21,
but right.
22, 23, yeah, I don't know, but a determination was made, and they began to be assessed. This board is now relooking at that and saying, we're not, it seems as if the board is saying, we're not sure the board made the decision.
I never heard it come before me before, did you?
C5?
No, Arborwood.
No, it never came. That's why I said
Okay.
C5.
Well, that's what I'm
but-
saying.
but here's the thing,
Nobody-
Bob.
And again,
C5 never did either.
We're not talking about C5, Ed. We're
It's the
talking
same,
about
Bob, it's the
Arborwood.
same rule.
The same rule
It's the
applies
same
for the
rule.
three things.
Applies to both of them.
It didn't, either one came before us. No, but all I'm talking about right now is Arborwood. It never came before us.
No.
But somehow, somebody in staff made a decision to tax it.
It's
C5,
not-
they made a different decision.
It's not, no.
No?
I totally agree. For
Then
one
how did it
reason.
happen?
The responsibility of this is the management company,
Who's that?
Severn, or Infomart. They put together the assessment
Okay.
goal. They blew it.
Okay.
They blew it. Now, did somebody not tell them? I don't know the answer to that, but I
But
do.
then, at this point, it doesn't matter. The only thing
Yeah.
that we need to come up to the
That's right.
decision is making this decision now.
How
Do
we
we
pay
pull
for
it out and then take that money out of reserve? That is
I-
only the conversation that we should be having right now.
Yeah,
Because
and
the
again-
benefit is not a percentage-wise benefit. Is it a benefit? Is it yes or no?
Can you-
And we
And
have
again,
the
and-
ability, per
yeah.
Tony, that we can do that and at
As
that
to,
time it
as
was.
to specialized services and facilities. Again,
Yes.
if you start off at the beginning of the rule, it talks about the basic premise is all properties benefit from the district. Then you go on to this discussion with regards to basic services and facilities, general management, general legal, general engineering, and then general operational and maintenance services, general field operations, water management, landscaping and street sweep. Those are basic services, and it says all property will be assessed for basic services. So that's in there.
The specialized services that exempts Pelican Reserve currently and exempts C5 currently is what my motion is, that Arbor would be provided the same
Included in it.
exemption.
Included.
Yeah, included.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
I
then-
don't have a problem
and
with
then-
that.
Yeah, and those are listed as A through F, basically, or excuse me, A, B, and C is predicated upon certain properties within the district not being directly internally connected to Gateway Boulevard or Griffin Drive. And the characterization is subject to change by the board without an amendment to the rule upon the change in status of internal connectivity, but that hasn't taken place. So I mean, that's,
Right.
so then, at the time of the annual budget adoption process, the board will consider the potential limited use or impact upon these specialized service facilities or services by certain categories of properties and property as outlined further below in the factors and analysis. Then you go to factors and analysis, and then the board can talk about the allocations of operations and maintenance, considers the impact or lack of impact on district facilities attributable to the properties, result within the district resulting from their use and or location with the district, together with the benefit that accrues. And then as for the cost of operating, maintaining the commons, the board will evaluate whether or not the properties can directly access the commons by the internal gateway roadway network without the need to travel outside the district boundaries in deciding whether or not to improve. So that, the part about the interconnectivity is the commons, that's called out specifically as one of the specialized services.
So
I guess
if
the
we,
question
if we take a vote today, whether to exclude them based on the same consideration that's been given to C5 and Pelican, then that's what we decide. Now, we're still looking at the interconnectivity rule as a board. That may or may not all go away. But what I think you're saying is today, we ought to at least be uniformly applying the rule.
I mean, the only sticky piece here to me is there is access to Gateway. Yeah,
Not at
you just
all.
go right down.
Not at all. They can't get access to Gateway. In fact, they are more reduced than Pelican Reserve is.
Oh, Ed.
Bob, Bob, have you been
That's
over there?
ridiculous. Yeah, you get on
They
it
have
right
two
here.
entrances.
No, you
You
can't.
can't get in and out without passing, what's this, Daniel's?
Have you driven it?
Reserve? Yeah.
Okay, well, then you know that you can't get there without going all the way over to the road that turns off that goes to tree line and then go all the way back up there.
Well,
They
that's the
have
road we're
no-
talking about. The road that turns in the tree line is the road that we connect to.
You can't
Yeah,
get there from
yeah.
Commerce Lake?
Yeah,
Whatever.
Don't you just go through Commerce
Yeah.
Lake and you,
it's right there.
Right.
That's, guys, that's Arborwood Phase 1 and 2. That's not Arborwood Phase 3.
We're just
So
talking
you
Phase
about-
can't
three
get
is
there by
further back in the
you
back.
can't get there by going through Commerce Lake.
oh, just phase one is all we're
No.
talking
Yes,
about?
because we're
Okay.
only talking
You-
I will
about
look.
140 homes, that's
Yeah,
why.
in the category the board's talking about, take Sherman Soccer Complex, the Commons, and the maintenance of Gateway Boulevard and Griffin, including landscaping, street sweeping, and water management.
Let's go this way. The way it was set for Pelican Reserve, a discrete area, and it doesn't say Pelican Reserve, it says discrete area, has connectivity, period, with Gateway Boulevard or Griffin.
Yeah, I'm
Neither
fine
one-
with,
none
I'm
of
fine with
those have
including it,
connectivity.
but I think what we should do is, as we agreed a couple meetings ago, as we're looking at the interconnect,
Yeah.
we just include C5 and we include Arborwood in those conversations because it makes perfect sense.
So, well, yeah, because it's gonna be over with
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, but the real
that's fine.
consideration, once we get past this, and I agree.
The
we
big
ought to
thing
do it.
is to get,
When Worthington comes on, now we're talking 2,400 homes, I believe.
no, 550. The issue
That's
is
all?
though, 550 at Worthington. The issue
Oh, I
is
thought it
that
was
right now,
2,400.
the bigger issue is we gotta have the reserve to pay for it. I don't see any other way we can
I did,
get
and
enough
I
cuts.
looked at the budget, I mean, I was
I
able to
couldn't
come
find
up
the
with
cuts.
40 grand, but honestly, not really.
Okay.
That's the same thing.
So,
So I just want to make one caveat. If you exclude them, whereas years past, they've been paying into the general fund, so they've got the benefit of the pool and really essentially it's the pool. Anybody who lives in Arborwood Phase 3 who has a pool pass, we would have to revoke their pool pass. I don't know how many that is, but I'm just saying that is a repercussion
They'd have to pay.
of the
Yeah.
decision.
that makes
They'd
sense.
have to pay.
But the offset is they're gonna be not,
Paying tax.
Paying tax.
Well, they'd have to pay next year.
Yeah, they've already covered this.
They've already
Yeah.
paid. They've
Well,
already
this-
been taxed
Yeah,
for
we'll,
this year.
we
Well,
won't
no-
cut it
For
until the new
24.
year starts, yeah.
But as
I'd
of
I'd make a
10-1,
motion,
Yes.
make the motion that per chapter 6 of the rules of the district, Arbor would be included and the payment to offset that loss, because this late date in the budget process, be paid from reserves.
for clarification, when you said Arbor would be excluded or included?
I'm sorry.
You said included? I thought.
Arbor would be exempted.
Okay.
per chapter 6, and I should be clarified, Arborwood Phase 3.
Okay.
Yeah, you better say that.
Arborwood Phase 3.
From which portion of the O&M assessment?
I'm sorry?
From which portion of the operation and maintenance assessment? Because
Well,
there's an
it's-
administrative cost.
As far as I'm
there's-
concerned, it's the specialized deals that were offered under paragraph B that you referred to,
Okay.
which is the parks, the roads, the streets, the pool, that whole set of four
But they
things.
still contribute to admin.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be,
Okay.
They,
uh,
in other
general
words, what they're
management-
going to be is a sub 001.5. They'll have everything we've got, except they are exempt from those 4 items.
Okay.
They pay
It's
a
everything
long
else
motion.
that we pay in
Long
001,
motion.
except those 4 items.
So that motion, is that motion clear for you, Tony?
Yes, so basically the 4
That
categories
was not-
that are the A, B, C categories. Sherman Soccer Complex, the Commons, maintenance of Gateway Boulevard and Griffin Drive, including landscaping, street sweeping, and water management.
Those are the same things that C5 and
Because this is really important and it affects taxes, Tony, could you properly restate Ed's motion?
I'll try to restate that. If I misstate it, please let me know.
Yes.
Motion would be that for the fiscal year 24 or 25, that for the operation and maintenance assessment regarding Arborwood Phase 3, that the assessment not include costs, fees, and expenses associated with the operation or maintenance of the Sherman Soccer Complex at Gateway Community Park, the Commons, or the maintenance of Gateway Boulevard and Griffin Drive, including landscaping, street sweeping, and water management. Is that captured, Ed?
that's correct.
And I second Ed's motion.
Okay, so we have a
Questions?
motion
Oh,
in
I
a
got a
second.
don't we have questions?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Applying Rule 6, I think,
Okay.
at the beginning, be applying Rule 6.
Just so that I understand what we're doing, because I have no idea about this, but is there anybody in Arborwood 3 that plays soccer? Are the kids there?
So
Are
that's
they
what
all-
she's saying. All of that, they won't be able to do anything anymore.
I know that.
We don't know.
Well, but we don't charge that
We don't
extra
charge,
20
yeah.
bucks anymore.
Oh, we
That,
don't?
that's the
No.
soccer field.
Yeah,
people,
we don't apply that. It's different. How,
Well, I
how
was just
the-
asking.
I think
Yeah,
Chelsea
it's a
hit
good
the
question, so but it's not applicable anymore.
Chelsea probably hit the most logical one, would be if anybody's using the pool.
Well,
or
yeah, that's
the-
an easy one,
That's
because you need a
easy.
pass.
Yeah, this-
But I didn't know if a bunch of Arborwood 3 kids played soccer.
And as an aside, another, Laura just reminded me, those who utilize the dog park would have to get charged the non-resident fee moving forward as well.
Correct, if we, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think on a go-forward basis.
On a yes.
Amendment 6, it's actually chapter 6. We need to change the rates, fees, and charges because they are a resident, but of Gateway. And I think if the categories are non-resident and resident, we need to change the categories to
We need
include
to add.
a category.
Well, and I'm okay with the thing as we stated the motion. But I would challenge the notion that communities must connect to 2 specific roads. I don't believe that was the particular intent in the early board. It was more of a concept that you can't get here easily.
No, that was
Or normal.
why they did it, Bob.
Well, but,
If you read those minutes, that is
well, I've
exactly
been
why
reading
they
them,
did it.
I've been reading them.
Yeah,
I don't.
The motion's on the floor.
I don't know that it resided only narrowly, just you have to connect
Hold
to these 2 roads.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0.
We will work with Russ
We're ready to
to
see.
get that addressed for your August 15th meeting.
So based on that
And thank you, Tony, for
motion,
So thank you for suggesting that.
we face a $86,000 shortfall in our current budget, correct?
It's going to come out from reserves,
Come out of reserves.
so we don't have to increase anything else. We're just
Okay.
taking it out of there.
It's too complicated to do it the other way. She
Well,
convinced me.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm just trying to think that if the 86,000, what does the 86,000 represent to the 5,000 homes of Greater Gateway? And apparently it comes to $17.34 a year. So, okay. 86,000 is a big number.
Yeah.
$17 in, lunch.
But the 17 is, if we weren't been at the, what do you call it, fail-safe point, we could have corrected this in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
We can't.
We can't
high
raise
water
the
mark.
Oh, we can't raise it.
001
Oh,
deal.
okay.
Yeah, that's why,
Even
that's
if we
the
did it
two-
before high water mark,
Yeah.
we could have.
That would have made it easier.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, earlier you stated though that you've got $100,000 in there for O&M
I will be more
I
than
did that
happy
one a
to.
day.
6,000 is less than 100,000.
She pointed out why you can't do it.
I can explain to you. Ultimately, your budget is remaining, but if you choose to remove that 100,000, you're removing your budget. You're not doing
Not
any
bringing in
impacting
revenue.
your revenue that has to come in.
Oh,
But it
That's
could be
the
paid for by carryover, by reserves, by a number of ways.
okay,
Yes.
all right.
We've elected to
It
use
it took me
reserves.
2 weeks to get past that point.
Okay,
I lost.
All right, so let's
Okay,
go ahead and
next
move
one.
to
C, admin, building, and
now the fun
construction.
comes.
All right, so Eric.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Eric Phi is here with Tetra Tech. Phi, I always butcher this. Phi, okay. With Tetra Tech to present this.
Good afternoon. Eric Phi of Tetra Tech for the record. In your packet, you should have our memorandum with the recommendation of award. We opened bids Friday before last and have reviewed 5 bids submitted. There were 4 of them were pretty close on the base bid. We had quite a bit of variation on the alternates. But after reviewing the bid packages, 2 of the bidders were deemed non-responsive due to not using or submitting all the proper documentation. In one case, the bid form wasn't, or the bid schedule that was supposed to be attached to the bid form wasn't submitted. And in another case, there was an affidavit that wasn't submitted, the bid schedule was changed, and the math wasn't right. So that ends up with Rycon Construction being the lowest responsive bidder on all 3 bid packages. Obviously, the bid amounts came in quite a bit higher than estimated. So the board has some decisions to make on how to move forward with this project. That's why the memorandum doesn't give you an explicit recommendation on doing one action. It's basically laying out the options of either awarding the base bid to Rycon or rejecting all bids and re-advertising the project and making some changes to the bid package to try to clarify some things that bidders seem to be confused about.
All right, do you want to talk about it? Or, I mean, I'm ready to make a motion on this one. And then we can
I'm ready.
second and talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
I want to make a motion to go ahead and reject all bids and then just rebid it, given the information that we have.
Second.
I'll second that.
Doug, second. All in favor?
Wait, discussion, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, Tony, how do we do this since we voted?
Well, I guess the question is,
Because
It's almost
there wasn't a second for discussion, there's just a second, right?
what's the second?
The second is
And then
for-
typically you have discussion after you have a second before you call the
All right,
vote.
so
okay, question. So what does this do to our timeline?
What'd you say, Karen?
What does this do to the timeline?
So ultimately, Tetra Tech will need some time to redraft the bid and put it back out. Minimum, the bid has to be out for 30 days. With regards to permits, we do not have our building permit yet. We just got that rejection letter back this week, or it might have been last week, so we have to get that resubmitted. Ultimately, for the timeline, we're still waiting on some of these permits. It's not going to hurt us. I mean, that's it.
Is there something in the bid itself that I was remembering the conversation that Bob had brought up about the pond that we're doing in Pelican, and how the original cost, when you just kind of asked people how much was this going to cost and whatever, it was like 200,000. But when it went out for bid, it was 300,000. And I know the staff is in the process of looking at the way we bid things, and I don't know the technical terms to use, I'm sorry, but the way we do the bids, is there something in the way we did this bid that would have caused people to say, oh, maybe I better up this a little bit because of something or other that's in the bid itself?
So I don't think that was the case. Like Eric said, I think there could definitely be some clarification if we did choose to rebid it. And we would evaluate that with Tetra Tech and Holmontes as part of the alternative, for any of the alternative portions of the bid. But again, we would evaluate that if the board so chose to rebid it.
Well, the
Okay,
number-
and you want to bid it as one whole piece again?
We would do it with the
No, no.
alternative.
No. Here's the difference. There's an opportunity for unbalancing the bids on this project, and you can see it as plain
Okay,
as day.
and I'm sorry, what do you mean by
It's
unbalancing the
when a
bids?
contractor puts something in one place and he's hiding the money to go to someplace else. Contractors do it all the time.
Okay,
This bid deal allowed them to do it. If we rebid this thing, make it easy. We got the building and we bid alternative two. Alternative one was a joke in the first place because the board approved alternative two. We said we wanted to build it all at once. So alternative one kind of got caught in the wash. We were in the middle of the bidding process and then we threw the curveball to say put all of phase 1A and 2A in the project. Right now, separate it out, because right now we have a question of whether we're going to build the park component. That's still up in the air. So build this thing so that they can't take prices out of the park and throw them over into the building or throw parts of the building over in the park. Because those are two separate funded type of projects. So
Would-
bid them
would-
separately.
would what Ed is talking about, would that happen? If you go out and bid it again?
What do you mean by would it happen? I mean, if you told us to bid it in two separate packages,
See,
we'd
if you
follow
put
the
the,
direction.
if you put the building part in the park project, the contractor does that to play games, in other words, unbalanced. And then we don't award that component, he's up creek without a paddle. Now he has got to put park cost in park, he's gonna put building cost in the building. Because he doesn't know if we're gonna go with one of those components.
So you're saying, the way we bid this was, it was kind of additive with the three
Yes.
bid packages. You're saying to completely separate them.
Totally separate.
So alternate one doesn't add on to base bid.
Don't
It's-
throw all the one out and just go with alternative two, park project, and this other one, period.
Is that what staff?
Now you're back to
Yeah.
three.
No. Build a building and build
Get a cost,
alternative two.
get a cost for
That's
building.
it. Cost for both.
Standalone.
Stand
It looks like, just, quick calculation of 5 or 6 people that are applying, we're talking close to 6 million for all of them,
Here's why.
just for the building.
Here's why I say, real quick, because I know we want to get off this. The real issue is that you've got such a disparity in those park bids, 1.2 million to 200,000.
Well, I'm
We
even
don't
beyond
need
that,
that.
Ed. I'm looking now at the building.
Yeah.
Forget all about the park, everything else, just the building, nothing else.
Yeah.
It looks like the building's in at least 6 million.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
I
incorrect?
think the answer is separate them and rebid them.
Okay, so can you rephrase your motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I would suggest if the
Reject
board.
all of it.
Maybe, could Tony
Well, no,
help
the board.
Ed rephrase his motion?
The staff has made a recommendation that's in the agenda book. And the recommendation by the staff is, in a sense, sort of consistent with the engineer's recommendation with regards to the alternatives that the board has. And the staff's recommendation is to reject all bids as being too high.
That's a simple,
And rebid,
that's a simple motion.
well, if I can.
Can I finish it?
And that's allowed under the statute. 190.033 says any board seeking to construct or improve a public building, structure, or other public works complied with bidding requirements of 25520. In each case, the bid of the lowest responsive responsible bidder shall be accepted unless all bids are rejected because the bids are too high, or the board determines it's in the best interest of the district to reject all bids. In this case, the board can make the motion, reject all bids because the bids are too high. The engineer's recommendation is that also because due to the number of responsive bidders being lower than anticipated. And so it's not in the best interest of the district. So it is in the best interest of the district to
That's your
reject
motion?
all bids. So
I can go with that.
reject all
That's-
bids because the
that's-
bids are too high, and in the best interest of the district based upon the recommendation from the engineer.
And rebid.
I can go with that.
And rebid, yes.
Okay,
All right,
so
so
that's
I-
his motion?
And I second the revised motion.
Good?
Yes.
Sorry.
If I could get some clarification, then the two packages would be,
Can we call for a vote, then we give you clarification?
sure, absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the base bid is going to be the administration building and all these site improvements associated with it, including the drive aisle and associated parking. The alternate would be the combination of phase 2A and 2B1.
Which
into
is
one
alternative two.
Yes.
alternate. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
one observation, comment. Are we comfortable with the bid of 6 million for the building itself?
Oh, no,
Well, that's why I pushed it back. It's too high.
It's too high. Let's just come back to, like, I don't even want to engage in that conversation because we all agree it's too high.
Yeah, well,
That's the
my
reason why-
only point is rebidding it, what's gonna make them lower that price?
Well, maybe we have different bidders bidding on the job, so.
Tell you
Okay.
what, one of the bidders may Attorneys bid in right this time.
I don't know, okay.
Well, I mean, you know,
Okay.
but forget, I'm just looking only at the base bid thing. Forget all the others. The base bid is way too high for me.
Okay. Yes, Carol?
Since we're going to have a delay of at least a month, I would also like at the same time for staff to go out and see if there are any other buildings in Gateway that could be used rather than building a brand-new building.
I disagree.
The price, it's not quite double, but it's sure getting there. And even when the bids come back, no matter what they are, when you originally went out, and I wasn't on the board at that time, but when you originally went out, you looked at what else was in the community to see if there was something that you could buy. Real estate changes all the time. I have no idea if there's something out there or not. But if there is, wouldn't this be the right time to find it? And not spend the money on building a brand new thing?
That was discussed many, many times, and we went to
There's just
another
no
place to
place.
buy. We could not find any buildings, but that doesn't say that the time hadn't changed.
I
That you
would,
could look at, but I
mean, I think if you went to a realtor or whatever, they probably have a pretty good idea what buildings are doing right now. And don't forget, in between, you had COVID. And it was a whole different commercial real estate market at
which
that
was
time.
easier because everybody was working from home. And I will tell you this right now.
Yeah,
there's-
but people
there's one-
haven't gone back to work either.
There's
And so
one-
you
one
might
area-
have buildings out there that are just sitting there and people are waiting to move them
What have we
now.
got to lose? We got nothing to
I'll
lose.
be opposed to it because I looked at this and I know one particular building that is for sale here. And it's just, it's not, it's just not a fit, unless you're gonna look outside of Gateway.
I don't
I don't
know.
wanna look
And
outside
I
of
don't,
Gateway.
and I don't wanna do that.
I think
I
because
wouldn't either.
all
Okay.
the other buildings that were available, they were just bought. and
But I don't want
rebought.
to spend 6 million either, so if
Oh,
it's
neither
lower
do I.
cost
We're not
alternative.
spending. That's why we rebid. So now that conversation can happen. What she's saying, when the bids come back, that's when we have that conversation. And I won't be opposed to that conversation at that time, but not right now.
Well, what's wrong with putting your toe in the water and just checking and see what the current market is? What do you lose by doing that is all I'm asking.
Well, checking for a
There's nothing
building, a realtor.
I don't think
could
there's
do
anything
that,
available,
but
but
the
if you
issue
wanna look.
is that we've got to get the bids back to find out where we're at. Hopefully, the bids will come in a semblance of the 5.5 million that we had originally done. Hopefully.
No, it's
5.5,
That was the engineer's estimate.
Wasn't
before
the
we did this
original
project.
3.6?
5.5.
I thought it started 2.5.
No, it started
It
at
got up to
3.6.
3.2.
No. It started at 3.6 and it went to 5.5. And if you recall back in December, not to say I warned everybody, but I said, we need an alternative plan. What's our alternative plan to cut? We had no alternative plan. So what we've got is what we've got. If we want to go in and start hacking the design, then we're going to spend a lot in fees,
Yeah, I'm not doing
and
that.
all we're going to do is
We're not
cost
doing
escalation, and I don't think it accomplishes
To
it.
Carol's point, if staff has contacts, if we want to kick the tires just to see if there's anything that has
that's
come
all.
available, fine. I don't believe there's anything available,
And
but
there may not be.
Well-
And so they'll come back and say,
Yeah.
you know,
nothing available.
I'm sure the staff is gonna say, we need X number of square feet, we need this, we need this, we need this. If there's nothing out there for us, so be it. But at least we looked one last time before we spent all this money.
And when do you want that by?
I'd like it in a month.
No, we need
When
it,
the
we
rebid,
need
have
it,
it
we need
have
it
it
back,
for the
we
rebid.
need it back in conjunction with
With the
bids.
rebid, right, whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
or the first
Yeah.
meeting in
It should be in
September,
conjunction with the
whichever one
bids.
comes first.
That's not going to take long.
Yeah, it's not.
I'll-
You're
No,
probably
I'll walk
gonna
to
have it
Denny
by
Grimes.
next meeting.
Let's
Walk
get
down
that
to
we
Denny
could
Grimes.
have it by
Exist,
the
but
next
we'll
meeting,
try- we'll give it a
probably.
shot.
All right.
That'll answer a lot of public's questions.
Okay,
Okay, so then where are we now?
I just have one thing under the district manager items.
Yes, ma'am.
At the last meeting, there was a lot of back and forth about sending the Parks and Rec survey over to Pelican. I mean, we have it, but I don't, like, there's gonna have to be rework with calculating numbers and things. If that's still the desire, we'll work on it and get it out to them. But I wasn't clear at your last meeting.
I mean,
Because it's not just a copy paste and send it to Pelican, because
Do you-
Pelican has
And
a
not only that, now we're looking at the methodology, everything is gonna be changed, so I don't wanna do a survey.
I mean, is it really worth the effort? I mean,
I don't think so, but,
Okay.
I mean, I keep hearing we're one gateway. Well, for one gateway, then we get an order with it. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask us on some things, but not on others. We're either all together or we're not.
Yeah, but Bob, I think the average person in Pelican isn't gonna understand why they're getting the survey.
They're gonna freak
So
out.
be it, but, they may come to
More
a
trouble.
meeting and say they're opposed.
I say we pass on it for now, and
I don't wanna confuse them. They are finally getting to know like what the CDD is, and you add that to it, they'll be thinking that you guys were planning this all along, and that's why you're teaching him what the CDD was, so we can do a park. I don't think there's a need for it. What do you
I want it.
add?
What would you say, Bob?
He wants a
I
survey.
want to survey Pelican
We
also, the way we did
don't. What do
Gateway.
you want?
I don't think it means anything right now because within a year, it's gonna be gone,
What's going to be going?
the rule.
Well, but that's going to have an impact on them, then they're
Oh,
paying,
well,
so they should get a vote.
I-
That's exactly to my point.
Yeah.
That's exactly
What
why
do we
they should
have
be
to do?
exposed.
What are we doing to do it? Because all it's going to do is take your park deal and throw it to the wind.
No, it's going to have 2,400 more people putting input.
my only concern is, and I'm not opposed to sending it, however, what I anticipate
I would
is
do dollars.
staff's gonna get tons of calls. What is this survey about? How does it impact us? Are we paying for it this year? And it's just gonna bog down staff time, which you guys are already complaining about.
Well, this isn't a Pelican initiative. It's the Gateway initiative.
We're one team.
But-
I know, it's a Gateway initiative. So therefore, they should be asked. You're taxing them, and you don't want to ask them?
Here's my,
We're
here's
not
my
taxing-
We're
We're
not
not
taxing.
taxing them.
here's my reservation in doing
We're
it.
not
You're not
taxing
getting taxed
them.
on
Not
this.
today, but they will be.
Well,
To
shouldn't
his
we address
point,
it?
a year from
tomorrow?
now, we have a different rule.
So we address it when we're taxed. They will have a say when
Why
they're paying
trying to
for
hide the
it.
weenie?
We're not.
Well, you are.
Once they
If
pay
you're
for it, they
sitting
can have
here
a say.
thinking that they're going to be paying an equal share, but you don't want to ask them whether they want it, how screwed up is that?
Well, we don't even know what the equal share is. We
Doesn't matter. They don't pay now,
You
but
can't-
we're
we
sitting here
can't
discussing.
We can't be acting on what can happen in a year.
It isn't in a year,
today.
Doug. We're acting right now on interconnectivity. We, this board, are moving on that.
Today, Pelican doesn't pay for parks and amenities. Why would we survey them? And again, I'm all for the input. I'm just saying it's a waste of time to survey someone that has no financial impact or bearing in what we're doing. It makes no
But
sense.
every discussion we're having today says we're investigating. They're going to very
That might
soon
be a
have it.
conversation, but
What's
we're
the
not there
harm of the
today.
survey? I don't understand the harm of the survey.
It's gonna take staff time to rework it and calculate the numbers and then send it out.
Okay.
That was my
Okay.
my
I don't
question.
think that's a big ask.
No, because they pay for the admin. They already had a separate bond
We're
for the
already
admin, for the admin fee. For the admin building.
Admin's already
Admin
separate.
building will be completely separate.
I
'cause there's-
keep
I know,
hearing
but that-
over and over again that we vote for things that we don't pay on, and how wrong that is, and now we're voting on something possibly.
No, you and Carol,
You-
that's
you-
part of your
that's
your
a-
elected role,
Did-
but that has no
that's-
bearing on someone living in Pelican.
Pelican, that's a fiduciary
But
duty. You should be
Pelican
looking.
is going to. No,
So you're saying that, in your opinion, Pelican will be paying for these
What I
parks in the
said.
no, that's what your position is, that Pelican will be paying for the stuff in the future. So it's in our best interest to get their feedback today.
Yeah.
Now, if you agree with that, then
I do
then I have
agree
no
with that.
problem with you sending the survey.
I do
If that's
agree
what you
with that.
think. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't care about the feedback. I just don't want it to be a waste of time.
I don't either, but when we make our decision, we would look at what we currently have, what the residents want or not. And Ed has firmly said a number of times, it's 51% against it, he ain't voting for it. I don't know whether he'll hold to that when the time comes. But let's not have a 5,000 vote summary. We think we're going to be a total gateway summary. What's that number?
I just don't know how I'm gonna explain to the gateway residents, because this is there are things that are separate, right? Because you have a different fund. You're having the residents, because we're not talking about you or you, because you guys are board members, so all of us are one, but the residents are not paying for, so we're asking for feedback of residents that are not paying for it all today.
With all due respect,
That's how I
if
feel.
we were to survey Pelican today, and we got the survey back in 2 weeks, Pelican's input would have no bearing on my decision, because as of today, they don't pay for it, so therefore their input is null and void. Now, in the future, if next year, if that changes, I would love to have Pelican's input, because you would be invested in it. But to me, today,
But if we change the rule.
Then we address that at that time.
but we would have already passed the
but
budgeting time period.
We've already
regardless.
made the decision on the park.
Well, and I'm not so sure it's going to be gone in a year.
We don't know. We're
We
wasting.
don't know.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
Just send the survey out and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
No,
But
wait,
it's more
well,
than just
no.
hypothetical, because we're actively considering removing the rule. And we just did it for Arbor. So it's not like it's a pie in the sky.
Can I make a suggestion? That we hold off, because
Until the 15th, would you hold this so we get the whole thing? and
until
not have
you,
it either?
until this board makes a decision on the interconnectivity, because we have to not only calculate, like we did the $88, we have to go in, look at the number of units, what's the total projected cost, what's the O&M, how's that divided, put that on, we have to go back and look at the 2023
But we're
bond
not,
series.
are we thinking about making a decision on the interconnectivity prior to the budget?
That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to have that decision before the 15th, whether we're going to
Oh,
adhere.
no, we can't do that. What the motion
You
was,
see the
the
email
last
from-
It would
meeting
be
was,
before, he's gonna try and do it before next year.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what we talked
because
about.
the reason is there's a timeline here. The issue is that the motion is to have Tony come back to us to tell us what the procedure is, the process is to go. We've got that.
yeah, but we won't be making that, that won't impact next year's budget at all. I mean, we're not going to have
No,
that decision
it
before
doesn't
next year. Yeah, so what's
impact
the?
2025
It won't
No.
impact the
2026.
25 budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2026.
That's what I thought I
It may
understood.
impact
Yeah, that's what I thought I
26.
understood.
If we make that motion.
And that's
then
when
we'll-
you're
we'll
talking
say
about
that
doing all
this
this
is not, it's not as of today, because then you would have to redo everything. But
Yeah.
Tony did send out to, you know.
Yeah.
But going backwards,
Yeah.
and Doug, is that there's probably a good 3 to 6 months of work that's not associated with this directly.
completely
but it's
understand.
indirect of Russ having to redo the
Right.
assessment methodology. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
Okay, so
just,
we'll go
until
ahead
we,
and wait.
until we
After-
have,
After you make a decision.
until we have that answer, I really didn't want to have a vote on the park. After we come back with the interconnectivity, or whenever that is, then it'll be very apparent whether.
The two are gonna be very
surveyed or
close
not.
now. The two are gonna be very close. There'll be a public hearing. We'll have all of that stuff that we have to go through. So the two are going to be very close, especially with the delay we now have on bids. Because the quickest we're gonna get bids back on the park and the building are gonna be 30, 45 days. Dollars to it. It's gonna take that long.
Where do we go? Do we survey or not?
So we'll the staff is recommending to survey after.
Okay.
After the board makes a decision about the interconnectivity, because
Yeah.
you could pay or you could not pay.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
no-
Okay.
I just, thank you, I needed clarification on that. That's all I have.
Okay, District Attorney Tony?
Yes, you just referenced the, before I get into the PowerPoint, the short summary about the steps to repeal the rule. And we put in there alternate dates for what the board wants to have possible public hearing, and it gives a timeline when you need to have a notice in the paper, when Russ would need to be engaged, and when the cert would be available. So if the board prefers a later date, we're thinking possibly October 17th, or you can go even later. If the board wants to do September 19th, we can start that process right
Can you
away.
just open that up?
Yeah, I just asked her to.
I thought that we had said that we were not going to deal with this until that second meeting in September, the September
Because I don't
19th.
think,
19th
because I
meeting.
don't think Tony would have
And-
information.
I think that,
And,
That's,
Let
I
Carol-
think that's
let
what
Carol
the
finish
deal
the
is.
and I would like to start that with a presentation from the guy who figures out
methodology.
the methodology.
Right.
Because I don't quite, you say benefits, and you talk about roads and water and all that sort of stuff, but how does it all fit in with the taxes? And I don't understand it,
Fair.
to be honest with you. And maybe you guys do, but let's look at all of that through the lens of this rule. The rule was always just kind of in place. And so and it was in place during the time that you changed the methodology. But I would like a presentation by, is it Wes? Is
That's
that
what
his
they're
name?
gonna prepare though.
Russ, by Russ.
That's
As
what they're
to
gonna prepare though.
summarize everything again, and then show us exactly, if you do this here, then that will affect this. If you do this here, then that'll affect this.
And that's why we have to have a public hearing, and that's why I would say.
No,
that we-
I want this just our board. I want the board to understand what it's
Before the
doing
public
first, before a public hearing.
We can go on ahead and start this process, and, which we've already done. We voted on that the last time. Start this process such that Russ can do his work, and he can bring it to the board, or he can talk to the board at the 15th. But in the meantime, our timeline is on such that we have the public hearing on September 19th, so that that ties in to the bid opening that's coming within probably a week of that.
Oh, so you know.
But,
So we're tying it all
but
together.
Ed, people want time to digest what Russ says and
Who
to
needs-
figure
who-
out in
who
their
wants to
own mind.
digest?
Oh, I certainly do.
A number of people in Pelican
People in
Preserve
Pelican,
want to know
it's-
exactly
it's
what would
reasonable.
happen. If this changes over here, how does it affect me over here?
Why are we rushing?
And, yeah,
The timeline to do it, to get this thing done, ready for next year to go into effect, 2026, not 2025. We know that's not going to happen. To do it in 2026, we need to go, and I totally agree with Tony's timeline of the one to start it such that the public hearing is on the 19th of September. I don't see anything that we're going to gain by moving it back one month, other than screw up the delay on the decision on the bids.
because you've got to understand what you're doing.
Carol, I'm 100% sure I know what I'm doing.
We took bids for what?
I'm sorry.
When it comes to the tax,
How we rebid everything. You know, like how we said at the beginning.
you may
Because we
understand
don't-
it, Ed,
We don't have it.
but people don't necessarily understand it.
I think if
But we can
anybody-
answer those
Do you-
questions on the September 19th. How about that? I mean, we're gonna be here.
You
It's not-
want a public hearing here where you might have 200 people with red shirts on telling you that they don't understand what you're doing and why are you doing this to me?
Well, they don't
if you-
understand us.
if
We
they-
need to understand, Carol.
If you can you understand it?
I've been on it and reading it. For me, it's clear. I mean, I had plenty
Okay.
of conversation with
So
Tony, but
how
I
is
wa-
it gonna
I wanna-
affect-
I wanna,
In 2026,
I wanted-
how is my
you-
taxes going to be affected?
Carol,
I
I'll give you a
wanted
real,
you to understand, like, if you're telling me that you needed it, I'm fine with that, but if you're telling me that you need the residents to understand, then it's not what I want. I want, if.
You don't want
me
the
as Carol-
residents to understand
No.
how their taxes are
I
figured
want you
and
to
where
be able to
it
understand.
comes from?
No, I want you to be able to understand so you can make an educated decision. And then you can relate that to the residents the same way that I will relate to the residents, because I answer to those residents as well. You and Bob are not the ones that answer to Pelican residents. I will tell you, I have a handful of residents, 5, that call me, reach out to me. Why they don't reach out to me otherwise, I don't know, but am I available? Absolutely. Have I never answered a phone? Yes. So your job and what I expected from all of us is to understand, be educated, and make the decision. If we need more time to make the decision, so be it, and let's take more time. But for the residents, they are welcome to come, they're welcome to read the documents, and they can understand as much as time and effort they're willing to put in to do it.
So
We can be a guide,
at
but
the
that's
public
it.
hearing, you're going to be able to answer for them what the impact on their taxes is going to be for 2026.
Rod, yes, Rod's, that
Percentage.
is the
Because
job Russ has
That's
got
Russ,
to do.
yeah.
That's
Well,
the job Russ
And
has got to
Tony
do.
too.
Well, the statement of estimated regulatory cost, and it's a question for us to determine what needs to be in it or not to be in it. But I think what's helpful for the board to understand is what may happen with the assessment methodology report, and then Russ can articulate whether that needs to be revised someplace down the road. It may
I
not
wish
need to
Ross
be.
was here, and I know he's
Yeah.
on vacation,
Yeah,
but I
I've
called,
talked-
like, I wish he would be here, because he would able to answer that.
Yeah, I talked to Russ a lot on it. The issue is, for Gateway, there is no change in the assessment methodology whatsoever.
Okay.
None. What we're basically doing, and he's talking about doing, is the same thing the way Gateway does its methodology is what Pelican will have. Right now, you have no item for such as like Parks and Rec and the stuff that we're taking out, streets, roads, landscaping.
No,
An
that's
easy
not
way,
true.
an easy,
have
not
roads.
on these costs here. You do on your own business, like on your own HOA. But if you take right now what is in the next year's budget, which is almost, for all practical purposes, $3 million, okay? $3 million is in the budget for 2025 that you guys don't pay, okay? Take and divide, instead of divide that by 5,200 that we pay, divide it by 7,800 is what you pay. That number is then what your people are going to pay.
No, no,
So,
no, no,
so
no,
you
no,
want
no,
people
no.
in Pelican
I'm telling you,
to
that is.
pay
I've talked to
all
Russ,
their
that's
own
about what it'll
things.
be.
Well, I've talked to Russ too.
That's real close.
But that's why, like, let
Pelican
Russ
currently
speak for
pays
Russ, yes.
For ponds.
Let Russ
We pay
speak
$1 million
for Russ.
a year for our ponds, then you don't pay. Well, if we get all one,
All that will come out when he does the assessment
so we'll be
methodology.
sharing it.
But the issue is right now, the impact of, you asked the question, what is the impact of Chapter 6 rule? The impact is one thing and one thing only.
It is not.
It
Yes,
is not,
is.
Ed.
It is roadway usage, it
Yeah.
is water, stormwater usage. The only thing
Yes.
that doesn't change is admin.
No, chapter 6, guys, read that.
We don't
damn
want
thing.
you, Ed. We
Chapter
want to hear
s-
it from Russ.
Chapter 6.
Okay?
Chapter
Let's just
6.
leave it at
Well,
that.
my motion is that we proceed with the possible timeline that Tony has given, such that a public hearing is set on September 19th.
And I'll second your motion. I'll call it, any more discussion?
Well, we have discussion. Now, to Carol's point, I think that we need some time from when we hear it before a September 19th board. I feel like it's being ramroded down my throat.
We
And
can
I
have
object to
that,
it.
we can have that, Bob. You
Can I
guys we
speak
can
without
have
you
Russ-
helping me?
We can have Russ at the next
Can I speak
meeting.
without you helping me?
We can have.
You've
it
had
at the
your
next
say.
meeting.
Can you now please
A
be
motion's
quiet?
on the floor, please.
Okay, can we
We're in
not
discussion,
adjourn
Ed.
this
It's not a
meeting-
motion. We're in a
meeting
discussion.
And then have Russ come, because he's coming on Monday, and then have an additional continuation of this meeting, so he can answer the question, and we can still meet the timeline. Would that be okay?
I'm not sure if I'm looking at this the right way. Because we are trying to address the item for budget so we can have consideration for some of the outstanding items that we have that are out for bid. Is that one
No,
of the,
no,
is that
no.
one of the drivers?
Yes, and the reason why is the very reason you made, is the park issue.
Yeah. So
It's a very
here's,
issue.
so I understand wanting to slow plate a little bit so you can communicate, but there has to be a concession. Either we are going to try to get as much information out and have a public hearing by the, not 15, whatever that date is, so it aligns with decisions that we need to make, or we proceed with the path for bids and parks and that type of stuff, and Pelican would not be in consideration of what that potential cost might be down the road. We can't have it both ways. It's going to be very difficult. So we either need to move forward as a board with the items that we have on our agenda for budgeting, bids, make the decision as is under the environment that we're operating in today, so we don't stall, we don't lose any momentum, or we try to fast track the interlock agreement discussion in alignment with some of these other things, because it could be some implications from Pelican. You can't have it both ways.
Well, there's no reason why.
There will
You could be.
Yeah, there's no reason why.
There could be, because we don't know if we're going yes or no, or we don't know what's going to change.
Well,
It
he's
may
already
or may-
told us it's going to go
Well,
away.
he's one vote of five,
I
but
know,
that's
I
just the
know,
way it
I know,
goes.
but-
But hear what I'm saying. You as Pelican, I would say, this is where you have to make a decision. You either want to take more time so you can communicate with the Pelican residents, educate them, and that consideration on the impact of the park would not be in alignment with that decision. Like, we're going to proceed because we've got bids, we've got things we need to do. Or we do try to accelerate so that consideration, whether that decision changes or not changes, that can be part of your consideration as well. You can't have it both ways.
Well, I
I
didn't know
want
we
to
were,
take more time.
There is no reason why Russ, at that 15th meeting, can bring the information here to show the impact of getting rid of Chapter 6. There's
well, if it's
no
that
reason.
simple, how
It's
come?
simple to do.
How come the calls that we've made to Stephen Bloom and to Russ, and I've made them too, and he tells me he can't possibly come up with a number yet?
No, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking him for the end result, which means he has to do the assessment methodology.
That's right.
If you want to know the basic number of what the impact of $3 million is, your share, he can answer that question.
You should be able to get a percentage. Like, you
Yes.
should back into it. It may not be
He can
exactly
back
what is your
into it.
cost going to be in 2026.
Very easy.
But you
to
should
back
know
into
what
it.
your
If it's so
percentage is.
easy, it'd already be done. But the impact of the money that Pelican currently spends for some of these individual things in Pelican will change if that money comes over here and we all pay out of the same pot. There is going to be an economic change. It's not all one way. This is not that Pelican picks up cost and Gateway picks up nothing. It is not. It is going to be a back and forth method.
Okay, let's have
It's
Russ
going
at
to
the
be
meeting.
how it was before this rule amended, that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but it's
exactly
not,
what it is.
It's gonna be, yes, it is, because.
no,
there
I'm
was
not
like-
arguing that, Flavia. What I'm
Oh.
saying is, there are expenses that Pelican is currently incurring that are solely paid for Pelican. And when we become one gateway and the
But we get the
rule
same
go-
thing, Bob. We get the same thing.
Give me an example.
Well, waterway.
Okay,
Okay, we spend $1 million something on waterway.
okay.
Okay, if the waterways now become under Gateway and Gateway now has whatever, 104 ponds at our 58, then there, you parcel up that cost by 7,500.
I don't disagree with that.
There's going to be an economic impact. That'll be a plus to Pelican, not a negative. We'll pay less.
And I don't disagree with that. It's fair, it's
It'll
fair.
be
all we're
no more
saying is-
separation of church
Yeah.
and state is what it
Right,
would be.
right,
All
right.
ponds, everything that falls under the
Everything.
district is district.
Everything.
You don't operate on your own anymore.
Absolutely, everything. So I'm okay with that if that's where we get to as a board.
That's
But to Carol's
that's the
point-
only way. If
That's
I were
the
you,
only way.
that I would.
That's exactly right. So I just want to make sure I understand the
Oh,
economic
absolutely.
impact of
It
it.
may be a savings on
Let's
certain
have
line
Russ,
item.
just come, Russ to be here at the 15th and explain that. It's not that
That's what
complicated.
I was,
Is it
I-
perfect answer? No, he is not going to give you to the penny, but he can tell you what the impact of truly eliminating chapter 6, that's what we're talking about, chapter 6, that's it. Chapter 6 has an impact of the dollars that are currently be paying to the tune of $3 million are going to go over and be split between the two communities.
So
It's that simple.
can we have Russ come in?
I love to hear it
One
simple.
second. Can we have Russ come in
No,
on
you're-
that date? But we don't have to establish that as a public hearing.
No, we can't, we don't have enough time. Again.
Yeah, so we're gonna have Russ come in. We have open discussion, whatever.
What I love is
And then
how
we-
simple it is from Mr. Tinkle, and I don't hear the same
And we
thing
just
from Russ.
continue on.
No,
I-
it-
You already go with that?
He explains it to me
Well,
very
well,
simple.
I almost-
I hear a very
almost-
different thing
because
from
Carol
that.
has a lot of questions. I almost want to do it twice. I wanted him to come on the 15th, but if there's an opportunity, I asked Chelsea to
yeah.
reach out to him.
Yeah.
We don't adjourn this meeting. We may meet next week and then again on the 15th, because if Carol has enough questions, I want to
No,
be able to
and
allow
she needs to
that.
meet with Russ. We don't have to adjourn.
But I'll
the
be
meeting.
honest, sometimes when we meet with one person, we do either hear different things and we
Right.
get different answers. I will say that. That goes even with my household. Like you ask, so that's, what, Tony?
I don't talk to Tim on the side, not to worry.
So,
If you want to adjourn the meeting, fine. I don't know. if
Can-
I would be
can I
able to.
chime
but it's fine if you, yes.
Or continue.
He may not even be available, but I'm saying like if.
Well, I thought we, at the last meeting before Chelsea jumps, the last meeting, I thought it was gonna be a meeting of Tony and Russ and staff.
We did.
And
They
No,
did
it
have a
is.
So that's
meeting.
all done? Now we know what the costs are?
That's it.
No, the
that
pers-
was
no,
not the
that was
purpose
not-
of the meeting.
this is
purpose
the
of that
purpose of the
meeting
meeting
is
is
to
to have
create
this.
this document right here.
Yeah.
That was the
I
purpose of
don't
the meeting.
understand the rush. Go ahead.
Can I,
Sadie.
can I just ask you one question? Did Russ review both of these timelines and did he say?
Yes, he
was-
helped review it. and
He said he
double-check
was
it.
able to meet the August 15th.
He approved this, he signed
Okay.
off on this.
All right, so here's my only point of concern for the 15th. You have two other public hearings that night.
We were really full
We're not-
agenda.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're asking Russ to come,
It's not a public hearing.
I know, but if you're asking him to come.
It's gonna be a lengthy conversation.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
Well, let's just workshop it. We'll just come an hour early, having workshop it.
That's
I
fine.
think-
And there's,
Good
it
to
Like a
doesn't,
really
it doesn't
long day.
impact or interfere with our regularly scheduled program.
Because our public hearings don't start till after 6. 5.
one at 5:30 and one at 6.
So,
And then
So in other words,
staff-wise,
have
if
the-
you can't be here, then
We'll come in
you
at
be
2
here.
o'clock.
It's
Have the
really gonna
regular
be
meeting
necessary.
and come in at 2
We'll
o'clock.
come in at 2 o'clock, we'll have a workshop,
Totally agree.
and then we,
Yeah, and just a
Oh,
caveat
here
on that,
too.
that depending upon the conversation and discussion that occurs in the workshop, recall the board cannot take any formal action.
Yeah,
The timeline envisions that at a certain point in time, the board will say, yes.
But
send
this
out
is an informative deal. It's already on schedule. No decision has to be made then
What-
until
well,
after the public hearing.
No, the decision needs to be made.
No,
The
it
board's
has
gonna
to.
look at the CERC, the board's gonna look at the notice and say, go forward, publish the notice, set the hearing for September 19th. That's in this decision line here. If you
So,
look
so
at
then
it.
this needs to be added to the August 15th, but, meeting,
we don't need a public hearing on that.
no.
No, there's no rush for that. 'cause we-
No,
we've
no.
alre- Yeah, so we meet on the 15th. We don't need a public hearing on the 19th.
Well,
No, you
would-
gotta have the
would.
public
okay,
hearing.
no,
on the
if I
19th.
can,
Yeah, you
Okay, go
gotta
ahead,
have that.
Tony,
Let's
go ahead,
adjust.
Tony.
right now the timeline is, the board, there's one motion of the two that need to be made. One is to proceed ahead with repealing the rule. That's not been voted on yet. The second motion would be to formally retain Ross. We've had conversations, retain him to do the CERC. That's the second motion. And then complete that by August 15th.
What's
So be this statement of estimated regulatory costs, which is required to be provided. Well, and
Which is easy.
then be prepare the notice, and then the agenda for the 15th would have a draft of the CERC and have a draft of the notice. And the board will review those. The board can look at them in a workshop and discuss it and everything else, but the board can't take action on those to say, okay, publish the notice, set the hearing for September 19th, and put the CERC out there. The board could say, we're not ready yet for that. Let's do it at a later date, October 17th or some other date. But the 15th, the focus on the 15th would be cert will be completed, presented to and approved by the board or modified, reviewed, and a notice reviewed by the board, and the board gives authorization to go ahead and set the hearing for the 19th.
And just
and
remind me,
publish.
why are we, what's on the 19th? Why are we pushing for the 19th?
You have, before you can do this rule process, you have to have a public hearing.
No, but I guess the question, Doug, said, what's
September,
critical
October,
about September
November,
19th? From a legal perspective, I don't see any, because the key issue is having, whatever
I think
whatever-
Ed's point is, the sooner we get the public hearing, the sooner we
Yeah,
can move
because-
forward.
yeah, because we
And
got
I-
28
My
days.
position is, I don't think we can make any decision until after the 15th meeting, and then we determine at what point we think
that's-
we would
that's
be
correct.
able. So
That's,
I
yes.
would not set anything, no public hearing for the 19th. We have Russ present on the 15th. At that point, we would
Then
determine
we
what's the
decide
next step.
when the public
Yeah.
hearing is.
Yeah,
if
so
they
that-
15
finish.
days from that, it'll be probably the meeting after.
Whatever.
After
Well, it's
whatever.
20, I think it's 28 days.
Well, it's 28 days ahead, the public notice needs to be published, so if the board on the 15th says, we're not ready to pull the trigger on this yet, let's, on our first meeting in October, which would be October 3rd, make the decision as to whether, and that's just kind of 28 days.
So
Are
just-
we good with that? I mean,
Or
we want to
September.
proceed
So it's a 4-day,
expeditiously.
yes.
Or the
We
board
don't
on
have to
August-
rush into the 19th.
Or the board on August 5th could say, 15th could say, hey, we're going to decide this, we're going to look at it September 5th.
Because
and
my
make our
only,
decision
my only
at the time.
fear is if we
Okay.
push for the 19th, if we have a public hearing, there may be an appetite to push for that public hearing on the 19th. And I don't think that would be, like to
Yes.
Carol and Bob's point, I think if they need to understand because they're the one making the rule. But there's also an implication. I want to make sure that we're.
Yeah.
you know,
Again,
And that's what I meant by allowing it more time, say, to make sure that they.
If I could just chime in.
What
So,
is the date to have
No?
the hearing on the
Okay.
19th? What is the date you have to have it? I mean, we don't have an answer to
There's,
that.
if you want, if the board wants, this outline outlines it. If the board wants to have the hearing on September 19th, 2024, the notice and information and the cert need to be available at the district offices on August 19th, and the notice needs to be published in the news press on August 19th. That gives a little fluff time. I don't,
So
I'd like
what
to
you're
always
saying
have.
is it could be, have the meeting on the 15th, the workshop, and host the hearing
Well,
after
at
that
that point.
workshop.
Well, after the workshop, when the board goes into regular meeting,
Yeah,
after
Yeah,
that,
we got
the
that,
board
yeah.
can make a decision as to whether or not they want to have the hearing on the rule repeal August, September 19th, or some later date, whatever date the board wishes.
Okay, Chelsea wanted to say something to
Yes.
that.
So just keep in mind that whatever your public hearing date, whatever your decision is made, if you decide to amend the assessment methodology, that window from whatever date that you make a decision and when we start our budgeting discussions, if you choose to delay a month, then that's Russ and you all 1 month less time to update the assessment methodology.
Too tight.
So that's,
Although with the recognition that the assessment methodology, when it was changed, became effective in May of 2020.
yes.
So it started, and that was utilized, first time it was utilized was that fiscal year 2021.
Changing the assessment methodology, while it's not gonna be that complicated, it ain't simple either. And so Russ can't just produce it overnight.
We want to get it done as soon as possible, but.
Damn
Absolutely.
But we don't need to rush into
And
it.
before we vote on anything, we need to understand what the financial impact is for all the parties.
Right.
Understood.
What does CERT mean? SERC?
Statement of
Just-
estimated regulatory costs. It's outlined in the statute, what has to, what that
So
entails.
your request is to have a workshop an hour in advance of the August 15th meeting.
Yep.
Solely on this item.
Yes.
At which Russ would be here.
We will make sure Russ is in attendance.
Zach will be in attendance, I'll be remote because my nephew's getting married on the 16th out of town.
And then that allows us still to be able to meet the 19th.
When the board gets into its regular session, the board can make that decision to set the hearing for September 19th if it wishes. And because I would anticipate we would have everything ready to go so it can be published on the 19th of August if need be for a hearing on the
I
19th
got
of
it.
September.
Okay. So we had a motion and then we had a second on the floor.
The
You have
motion
to-
is to proceed with repeal of the rule and preparation of repeal notice. And I guess we need a second motion after that.
We did, Doug did.
Okay, but
He
we
seconded
voted
the
on the first
motion.
motion. I don't think it was voted on.
No, that wasn't voted on because we started
We haven't
discussion.
voted on that, yeah.
I would suggest, Madam Chair, if you
Call for a
vote on the
vote.
first motion. call for a
Okay,
vote.
so let's call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
I think I
Okay,
suggest
then
the
the next
second one be
motion would be that we.
approve
retain-
retaining Russ.
We retain Russ to do the cert for the process to repeal Chapter 6.
And also, I would suggest adding also, and because the board's also interested, it sounds like, in methodology, and what rough initial,
Yeah, because that's part of it.
estimate as to what impact it may have on property owners. If you can
Can you
just,
make that motion?
he may just, again, and he can.
I want to hear the
do
words
that.
again. I want to hear the words.
Well, it would be to engage Russ to prepare the statement of estimated regulatory cost,
What
as
you want.
well as sort of an initial rough analysis as to what impacts it could have on the operations and maintenance assessment.
For
And
all
I
the
think Ru-
constituents of Gateway. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
So
Okay.
I'll second your motion then.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. And I want to make the last motion that the group that is doing this, Flavia, will be in attendance. That is the board representative.
I don't agree with that. I think, I don't know, we didn't decide who was going to do it, if anybody. But if somebody's going to do it, I would much prefer Doug. I think he's far more open-minded. No offense, Flavia, or
Fine.
intended. But that would be what I would like to do, or that none of us, that they do it, staff and the
No.
outside experts.
I mean,
You can
That
vote.
is
I
too
agree
dangerous.
with that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I think
I think
I
the
think-
chair,
I think the chair
I
should be
think the
there.
chair should do
Okay,
it.
I think the chair's biased, so I'm saying no.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I make a motion that Flavia be the
Can you say
representative.
chair instead of my name? The
I'm sorry?
chair, just say the chair.
But you said another word. I was going to say,
I
I
don't know.
don't think you said that. I
think-
would make a motion that the chair serve as the board liaison to the group, because we're not calling it a committee, the group that is working with Russ and Steve and Chelsea and Tony on the repeal of Chapter 6.
I'll say. So.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
She'll be
We are
impartial.
really getting
I
polarized.
don't have any hard feelings.
We are really getting
Oh.
polarized.
She's getting.
All right,
No, or just
Yeah,
the
we-
opposite.
Oh, yeah, I know.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
next.
Tony has the CCNA presentation.
You have to go?
I won't be long. This is an exciting topic.
So can I just preface, so a lot of the things that we've been doing with bids and, more formal, everything we do is driven by statute. And so I asked Tony, because CCNA is a big component of all of our bids and our engineers and things like that, to do a brief presentation for the board, staff, and the public on CCNA.
And hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at the document, the PowerPoint we prepared. And again, if you can go to page 2, I appreciate, Laura, you clicking on this. It's section 190.033, which is in Chapter 190 Florida statutes and addresses community development districts, says that the provisions of the Consultants Competitive Negotiations Act, known as CCNA, Section 287.055 Florida statute, applies to community development districts. So it's contracts for engineering, architecture, landscape architecture, or registered surveying and mapping services that are let by the board. It was most recently amended this past legislative session. The legislature actually did something wise, and we'll get to that in a little bit, with regards to continuing contracts and evaluation. The CCNA was first adopted in 1973, which requires the district to procure professional services of an architect, professional engineer, landscape architect, registered surveyor, and mapper, using a qualifications-based selections process, and that's what's critical. So the qualifications-based selection is a process whereby service providers are retained on the basis of competency, qualifications, and experience rather than price. So the concept is to have the agencies or the CDD select the best qualified firm. If you go to slide 4, it gives a scope of services. And the professional services within this CCNA are, as I mentioned, architecture, professional engineering, landscape architecture, registered surveying and mapping, as defined by the laws of the state of Florida. If we go to the next one, the basics. We've done this times when we, for example, retain the services of a landscape architect and other professionals. The district must publicly announce each occasion when the services must be purchased for a project of basic construction cost of which is estimated to exceed the threshold amount in section 287.017. called for category 5, which is $325,000, as it may be adjusted, possibly. And then for a planning study or study activity, when the fee for professional services exceeds $35,000, except in the case of valid public emergencies. The estimated cost has to be a good faith estimate. The notice has to give a general description of the project and how consultants may apply for consideration. And the CCNA, in fact, allows what's called a continuing contract, where the professionals provide professional services to the agency for several projects. And so there's a three-phase process for procuring it. Phase 1, public announcement, qualification. 2, competitive solicitation. 3, competitive negotiation. So during phase 1, the public announcement is made, and this is also the qualification phase. The district publicly announces when professional services will be purchased and is indicated for those categories. In determining whether a firm is qualified, the district must consider the capabilities, adequacy of personnel, past record, experience of the firm, as well as whether the firm is a certified minority business enterprise. The last one's not the penultimate decision-making, but they need to look at that. What's important is that the district cannot require proposers to provide billing rates, fee proposals, hourly rates, lump sum price, cost or pricing, or anything dealing with consideration or dollars. So
Can I hold you up?
Yes, sir.
In this particular point, in our security service contract, don't we have all that in there?
They're not professional services under the
Thank you.
CCNA.
Okay,
Yeah, in other words,
very good.
Yeah. For example, like auditing services, there's a separate contract.
Okay.
So the difference, that is an RFP. Normally, when you do this, it's an RFQ.
Well, it's not just that, but it's a category, it's not professional services as defined in the statute. So during the phase 2, the district evaluates the qualifications and past performance of the interested firms, conducts discussions with at least 3 firms, that could be the interview process, regarding their qualifications, approach to the project, and ability to furnish the required services. Then the question always becomes, well, the district must select at least 3 firms ranked in order of preference that it considers the most highly qualified. If you don't get 3 parties, you only have 2, then you still need to rank them 1 and 2. Because what's important is the next phase after this ranking process. And in determining whether the firm is qualified, again, we have to look at all these various factors, whether the past performance, willingness to meet time and budget requirements, location, recent, current, and projected workload, the volume of work previously awarded to each firm, and the goal of equitably distributing contracts among qualified firms, provided that the distribution does not violate the principle of selecting the most highly qualified firm. And again, as with phase 1, during the phase 2 evaluation, the CCNA prohibits the district from requesting, accepting, or considering proposals for the compensation to be paid. So during phase 3, after the ranking, and it'll be ranking by a committee and comes to the board, the competitive negotiation phase, an agency must first negotiate compensation with the highest ranked firm. So you negotiate the terms of the engagement, the contract, and the compensation. If the district is unable to come to a satisfactory arrangement with the highest ranked firm that determines to be fair, competitive, and reasonable, then the negotiations with that firm are ended and terminated. Then the district would negotiate with the remaining ranked firms in order of ranking and follow the same process, hopefully ending up with an agreement. If the district's unable to negotiate a satisfactory contract with any of the ranked firms, the district must select additional firms ranked in the order of competence and qualifications without regard to price and continue negotiations. The idea is it's qualifications based. As of July 1st, 2004, the continuing contract, which is a contract for professional services entered into in accordance with CCNA between the district and a firm where the firm provides professional services, as I've outlined, engineering, architecture, landscape architecture, et cetera, for projects in which the estimated construction cost of each individual project under the contract does not exceed $7.5 million. It used to be $4 million up until July 1st, 2024, or an annual increase based upon the consumer price index, which is also smart. I hadn't done that before. Or for study activity, if the fee for professional services for each individual study under the contract does not exceed $500,000, or for work of a specified nature outlined in the contract, with the contract being for a fixed term or no time limitation.
Tony, stop on that.
Yes, sir.
What about engineering design? You got a study activity. I didn't see anywhere in here it talks about a design activity.
Well, I think design that would fall under the general concept with regards to construction. It's not a planning or studying activity, so it's design. You run into that issue.
Yeah, because you have a planning study, you have a design phase, and you have construction services. The ones that's usually the big ticket item
It's
is the
design.
construction, or I'm sorry, the design.
And I think design falls more in the latter category when you're looking at these.
Okay.
As opposed to, for example, I mean, I was looking at some other jurisdictions as to, the statute does not define planning or study activities. It just doesn't, which I know. You got to love it. But I was looking at another agency where they talked about planning or studying activities, like data collection, modeling, alternate system tests, cost determinations.
Well, up north, continuing contract would be planning to design to construction.
Yeah, and again, that could be part of that.
That could be a part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then as to July 1st, 2025, the price is adjusted annually by the Consumer Price Index. So that's basically the process. We advertise in paper. We hopefully get parties to provide their qualifications. And the process could be, we can also end up, have interview them, however we want to establish the process.
So we could take, to answer what Chelsea and I have talked about, this deal of going back every time is a waste. We got to save that, get out of that. How can we take and have a RFQ go out that would allow us to, let's say, have a pool of engineers for XYZ services, have a pool of services for engineers or architects for ABC services. Then we could take, when we go to do those, go to any one of those pool and not bid, but negotiate.
Yeah, and again, that's, Lee County does that, I believe Collier County does that. They solicit proposals from multiple engineering firms, and they negotiate a table of rates once they rank them all and say, okay, we will have continuing contracts or contracts for the service with you, and you.
Okay, but this doesn't have anything to do with, what's the word we talked about today? Piggybacking.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's correct.
Nothing to do with piggybacking.
That's correct.
So it does not qualify to professional contracts?
Correct.
Okay.
So again, other counties, I think Lee County, you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Collier County's done the same thing where they'll pick like 10 engineering firms.
Where that would be advantageous, like what you want to do over at Pelican.
We
where
could do
you
it here.
Huh?
We'll be able to do
Well,
it
we would
here.
be able to do it here too, but have a pool that you can go negotiate the deal instead of going through all this
Yeah, you might have a pool for site civil work,
waste water management.
all kinds.
So as an example, we called this the big bid when I was at Fort Myers Beach. We'd put this out and we'd put a huge RFQ and we'd have 10 different categories: landscape architect, environmental engineers.
And you have the same people in
surveying.
multiple
Yeah,
multiple
exactly.
areas.
Absolutely.
So what we would do is we would qualify them, and then if Pelican came up and said, hey, we need to redesign the boardwalk because of something, I could go to that category of whatever that is and say, hey, negotiate with the #1 ranked firm and say, hey, I have this job, I need this work done, give me a task authorization based on your negotiated rates that we agreed upon, and move forward. Now, it's kind of unique with us having a district engineer.
But that does not preclude having in fact, I think the contract with the district engineer says that. The
Well, you
district has the
might not
ability.
find always the case to be that your district engineer provides all
Well,
services.
today's a perfect
That's
example.
correct.
It covers
I
your
was gonna
butt
say-
on having an alternative.
Correct, but again, there are, the language in the contract, and
Yeah.
I think the RFQ with the district engineer is the district can go out for other services from other firms.
So as an example, that's been kind of cumbersome,
gets around
which is a
what you said.
benefit to having a pool, is we went to Tetra for the admin building. We said, hey, we need CEI services for this. They said, hey, we don't have that. We can't provide that to you right now. So that forced us, because of CCNA, we had to draft an RFQ. It's out on the street right now. We'll go through this process. Whereas if I had this pool, I could have just gone to the CEI column and said, okay, you're #1, I need.
Yeah, and it's a CEI for a number of services.
Yes.
It's not specific to any particular project.
But again, the trigger point is the dollar value.
The dollar
So
and
if you're
scope,
doing something and it's
dollar and scope.
200,000, None of this applies.
Well, that's correct. It's
Okay.
dollar and scope.
There's very few things that we're gonna have
That hit
that
this
triggers,
threshold.
triggers most of this.
But again, what I've seen also, and Kyrie does this, I'm not sure how Lee does it. You may have referenced it in Fort Myers Beach.
I'm sorry, Ed, what did you just say?
So
There's
very
very-
few of our projects are gonna trigger any of these maximums.
We don't hit these
We
kind
just,
of
we don't
monies.
hit those levels. That 7.25
You're-
million is a lot of money.
Your projects are over, what, 200,000?
No, I'm talking about
No.
the construction.
7.5 million.
Construction, this is
Construction.
separate.
Build a building.
Okay.
Yeah, but what they have, the Cuyahoga, if I recall correctly, Cuyahoga County qualified about 10 firms and negotiated a table of rates with each one of them in a separate agreement so that when they call them up and send them an email that says, hello, we need you to design, or we need you to do CEI, or we need you for X, Y, Z. It's already established. And they're usually, I think, 2 or 3 year contracts, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and especially if you're trying to do planning and studying activities or, you know, any type of, that Tetra Tech can't provide, or, you know, that something specialized, having that
There's no
pool
delay,
already
you just
done,
go to it.
you want to do it.
Saves time.
Well,
It's a
like
safety deal.
analyzing the new meter project. That's a pretty big
Yep.
project.
It's out to bid.
That, what, I mean, we would use this type of a,
It's out,
System,
it's
yeah.
out to bid right now.
but if you're just doing a repair of a pod.
Oh, no, repair and maintenance is different.
Doesn't, that's a
Yeah,
whole
you
different
don't- and you
statute.
don't-
Just starting
But if
from
it's
scratch.
construction, then this might apply.
Yes.
But if you repair, it doesn't.
That's correct.
Okay.
Unless you're designing a significant repair.
No,
So,
That qualifies as construction when you cross that
correct.
line.
Understand all those caveats.
so if you have a street and the street has to be taken down and, you know, redone and whatever, this would not apply?
If you have to do any design, I mean, if you're just putting a bid out for a contractor to do the work, to, you know, mill, repave,
Right.
restripe, that's not professional service, that's just a construction
You
service.
get a real fine line there, real
But in
fine
that case,
line.
Okay.
it's on, yeah,
It could go both ways.
Yeah.
You could go full gung ho and have the engineer redesign it if you have to go down to the
the base and sub-base,
Yeah, or if you're just doing repair and maintenance, mill and overlay, that's all they're doing. They're not going deep down.
Doesn't qualify.
Yeah, so
It
that,
doesn't qualify.
It may not qualify for the need for engineering services.
Yeah.
Not doing like core sampling, under the road, things like that.
Right.
As Chelsea said, you're just doing the upper surface. Mill and grind.
so this is one of the many statutes that we have to abide by as part of our procurement, and that's why I wanted an education, not only for staff, but the residents and you all, so you can understand some of the hurdles that we have to overcome when it,
Again, the legislature in its infinite wisdom does wonderful things.
yes.
So this is going to be on our website somewhere if somebody wants to look.
Yeah,
at it.
we can put it on our website.
I mean, just
We can put it on the board SharePoint site.
somewhere, I mean, it
We'll
can be
get there.
found.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Nothing else, unless,
I know.
wait for the chairman to come back, I guess.
She said she'll be right
Mr.
back.
Chairman.
Ed, if you want to keep going.
But, are we done with that then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank
so-
you, Tony.
Yeah, we got,
Thank you.
we're done with Tony?
Yep.
You guys, your turn.
Agenda management. Do you have any questions? Oh, I just want to make mention, Daniel is going out on military leave starting Monday, and he will be out for a couple months. In the interim,
Couple of months?
yes, he'll be returning
Oh.
October 11th, or sometime in early October, but in the meantime, Laura and I will be tag teaming. He will be, you know, kind of keeping in touch from afar, but he will be pursuing a master's degree, so we are encouraging him to bring it back.
So Chelsea and I are gonna rotate being over here, we'll trade off like we did before we had
Who,
public works.
who's gonna be handling, pond-related
I
projects
am.
like the,
I am.
okay.
Contact me.
So 109, you're gonna be doing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nathan may be my eyes and ears, but I will be handling it.
And then, of course, we got Bill for the meter projects.
Yep,
Okay.
we're good.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I know we've talked about this already, but at the last meeting, I thought we said, because the interconnectivity had nothing to do with the 2025 budget, because it could not be done in time, that we were going to start discussions about all of that on September 19th.
No, the motion
It was
last
going to
time-
be,
I went to.
I know there's been motions in between, but I thought that's what you said. I thought you said we were going to devote the entire meeting on September 19th to that topic.
And I went back, and I talked to Tony, I went back to look at the motion and look back at what actually was said at the meeting. And Tony, you want to recap it with
Well, the
Carol?
motion was to
Okay.
authorize staff to embark on the path to repeal the rule and come back with the time off.
Repeal or amend? We kept going back. and
Well,
forth.
repeal was
That's
the
why I
motion.
had,
To
I actually
repeal-
had Tony
to
look at it.
It was
repeal the
repeal,
deal.
but then, again, there was much overtalk and a lot of conversation after that about amend, but the motion was to repeal.
If you want the second meeting in September to be solely dedicated to this, we can absolutely do that. You have to tell me what you want.
I think that really is going to be tough until we know where we're at on these bids.
Okay.
What's the day we're going to open the bids?
I have to find out from Eric how long it's
I
going
just
to take him
don't
to turn
see-
it
I
around.
just don't see how that the bid opening of the deal isn't going to occur on or about September 19th.
I'm going to
That's what I'm
say,
thinking, is it's gonna give it a week to him to edit and change, which is the first now, so give it 7 days, and then notice 30 days.
I don't
it's
see
gonna
him
be a-
taking a week. I see him taking longer than a week.
Well, okay, so then.
I
it's
see him
really-
taking at least 3 weeks to get it
Oh,
right,
wow.
to update it,
To do what?
to update
3
the
weeks?
bid and
No,
clean
I
it
don't.
up.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know, I can
If
speak
if
for
it
him,
does
but-
because somebody just doesn't have staff time to do it, that does not take that much time to do it. You've already got all of the bid documents set together. All you gotta do is split those two apart. That's what I think happened here, is we got them unbalancing the bids because you blended them. Separate 'em.
I will find out tomorrow how long it's going to take them to
But
turn it around.
even if it's 2 weeks, you're still
Yep.
close to September 19th.
Oh,
Sometime
you
in
were
that
very
week or two
close.
afterwards. What?
You're very close, you have
You-
5 days,
Yeah,
4
it's
days.
tight, it's tight.
Really.
Okay.
But
30
What
days
is,
step
fine.
out.
what
I
is
don't
the
know what
first meeting in, what is the date of the first meeting in October? Is it the
Or
3rd,
the 5th.
the 5th?
Yes.
Third,
Is it 3rd? I'm sorry. 3rd, I'm sorry.
Third.
about that.
I will not be physically here and I will not be available on computer. I will be out of the country
On the third, just the third.
on October 3rd.
I
I'll be
was-
here for all the meetings in August, all the meetings in September, just the 3rd, and I will be here for the second meeting in
Second meeting in October, since you have Lorna Kibbe earlier in the week for those 2 days. That's just 3
Yeah,
days
okay.
you're going to be here this week.
We
that
don't have
week.
to make that decision. Let's see
Well,
what
I think it
happens.
depends.
I think it
when the
depends on
bids
what you
come in.
find
Yeah.
out talking to
Okay.
Tetra Tech and Whole Montes.
That's just 3 days you get to see my beautiful face that week. So.
Okay. Also, could we talk about, I know we voted on the calendar and it included December 19th, but that's less than a week before Christmas. I will not be here.
How many meetings were on?
we have one on the
You
5th,
got it.
December 5th.
Last year,
I'll be
we-
here on the
We
5th.
dropped the second one, I
I
thought.
thought we dropped the second one, I'll tell you right now.
Here's
So I would like to drop the second one if you guys don't mind,
I'm
because
fine with that.
I will be
The
gone up
19th.
north.
I'm
The
fine with
19th,
that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, last year we only had one on December 7th.
That's what I thought.
Okay, and then, because we send out the notices about the high water mark budget and the impact and all that sort of stuff, when we do adopt the budget on August 15th, and it's probably going to be version 4 or something very, very similar to it, is it possible that we could send out to the Pelican people the fact that this is, we have sharpened our pencil and that the impact on them is going to be considerably less? More like 2.5% instead of the 11 some odd percent that was in the initial letter? Or
What's
could we
changed?
do a,
Let's change it.
They cut
My only concern about
from the
that,
high water
Yeah.
mark. Yeah,
Is
what
it
was
the
adopted,
change?
they cut
We
all
just,
stuff.
we just direct people to the budget, which has the tables with the amounts of the assessments, once it's been adopted.
my concern is that the statute's very clear as to the process to
Yes.
be utilized and what has to be in the notice.
Oh, but your versus the high.
I would not want to have somebody construe that as being a notice under the statute. Now, and so.
okay, could we,
That's my
can we send
concern.
out an email Could P-PAC send out an email to the people in Pelican Preserve?
Something that says your finalized budget approved by P-PAC and being presented to the board
On August
whatever the
15th,
date
blah,
is,
blah, blah.
will
Yes.
result in a 2.3% or 3.5% raise, not the original high water mark of 50.
What I would suggest is, better as opposed to getting to the whole percentage, is just say at
Okay.
the board meeting of August 1st.
15.
Of August 1st, the board decided that the directed staff to prepare a budget that revised the Pelican Reserve portion of the budget downward.
From something
X
to
number,
something.
and just leave it like that. I don't want to get into the whole percentages and the per unit difference. I just think,
I'd rather
State the
push it
facts.
out after the public hearing and after you've approved it and
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and promote it in that sense, not
Right.
before, because you guys, the board could change their decision. You could,
No, I meant afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to.
oh,
After-
after,
before, too.
okay,
No,
after
sorry.
the
I thought-
public
Yeah,
hearing.
we're only talking after it's adopted.
Okay,
Okay.
After
Absolutely.
adoption,
I'm with Chelsea. I was
these are
thinking
the
before.
final numbers.
Absolutely.
We always put something.
It's
out.
And
final.
I don't know if
Yeah.
Okay.
Gateway wants to do that
Yeah.
too.
We
And-
always put out something that the budget was adopted, and then we'll have the new schedules in there, so they'll be able to see. They'll have the final tables, which are actually in the versions
Yeah.
that have been in the board book every single time since June 20th.
So we
they
always
can
shock
see
them with
it.
high water and then reality
Yeah.
comes
The
all
only
If they-
the way.
problem
if they
I'm
look,
getting
they're
is
in there.
people are thinking that at Gateway, there's gonna be 900 and some dollars. I said, no, it's 905 for your base. You've gotta add in those
Plus.
other two things.
Yeah.
You gotta read that whole thing to understand it's 1208.
There's two numbers. I tell everybody, look at this paragraph, and then go down two more paragraphs, add those two numbers together, and that's the high water.
Yes, Carol.
Okay, but afterwards?
After it's
Yeah.
adopted.
After
Okay.
adopted.
Once we post
Sorry
it,
about
yep.
that.
And we could probably, P-PAC could probably take that out of their budget then?
We're just gonna email it. That's
We're not
gonna
gonna
Oh,
mail
be-
email, sure.
To
Okay.
mail the letters is insanely expensive.
Too much money.
And
Okay,
it would take weeks to get them out, so it's better just send email.
okay. Well, at least we'll email it,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you-
which actually they're used to getting emails anyway. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay. I heard you say, Carol, you won't be here December 19th. That's a week before Christmas. I don't know. I'd just like to keep it open and maybe we'll have it, maybe we won't. I know I'll be here for the 19th. That's a Thursday, Christmas into the following Wednesday. Are you gonna be in Brazil? Are you gonna be here? Or, do you know?
She doesn't.
I always come back in the meetings, but trust me,
Okay.
I was there yesterday.
Well, I mean,
I was
I-
in Brazil yesterday, I'm here today. I really was.
You were where?
In Brazil yesterday, I'm here today.
Jesus Christ. What do you
Well, you
got?
weren't flying
You got
Delta.
more frickin' miles than a.
She wasn't flying Delta. But anyway, all I'm saying is, let's, maybe we can revise that later on. There may be a need to have it, may not.
You might not get. paid
Whatever
for
you
it.
guys want,
Well,
I'll
and
be
well,
here.
well, yeah, we just got the answer, never mind.
What, you won't be here?
And you might not get paid for it, because it'll be.
Oh, then we're not having
There's- The magic duck came down. There was the answer right there.
No, no, no.
All right.
Is there anything else? So we'll remove the 12, well, did the
Why don't we
board,
just leave, well,
I thought you voted on canceling the 19th meeting. Maybe I missed.
I got it. I
that.
don't.
The December 19th
I,
meeting?
I thought we did.
Yeah.
If we did, we did. That's
Okay.
good.
All right, yeah, I wrote that down.
And if
Is
If
there
something
any-
comes up, we have
we
to
need
have
it,
it.
we do the same thing, we add it.
Okay. Is there anything else for agenda management?
Not for me.
Any Other than, so did you decide on the 19th being fully dedicated to that agenda item, or we're gonna wait and play it out, see what happens? Okay,
I think, see what Russ says on the 15th of making the presentation, and that will make a big difference, I think.
all right.
At the end of it, if we still have questions that need further review,
Further
we
review.
push it out.
Yeah,
If we get all
I
the
agree.
answers.
We don't have a workshop scheduled for the 15th, or do we?
We do now.
They do.
No, but we
want it
need to
now.
notice
We'll
it
have to
now.
notice it.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good, so supervisor comments, Bob?
The long-awaited swirly will be deployed into Pelican probably next week, the week after, at the latest. We now have the trailers got tags, they just got their reservoirs on the new reservoirs. So, and we had a meeting with the golf course, and we've agreed upon a site where it can be stored over there. And we're gonna put a tarp on it, and I asked Daniel today if we could identify on the tarp that this is a piece of P-PAC equipment or whatever. So we're gonna do that, so it's sitting in the parking lot, people know what it is. So we're moving good on that. We talked a little bit earlier with Tony today about the never-ending easement issue. We thought that was done and behind us.
Which one?
the landscape easement in
Oh,
Pelican.
landscape.
Now we find that there's a number of monuments that may or may not be district assets, so we're getting easements from those communities. And I expect to have that done before our next meeting. There may be as many as 5 monuments that are under consideration. We know of one for sure, Sienna. We're investigating Ravenna, Trentino Estates, Viadana, and one other.
Who is
So,
investigating that?
Tony and Will Cronin.
Tony, you knew
Well-
you were assigned that?
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't, I knew,
I thought Ed Hedges was taking the lead.
Yeah,
Well,
I thought
he's
so.
on, he's working on it, but
yeah.
they don't, Ed is the one that brought him up saying, we don't think we have, he's the one that brought it up.
Okay, I wasn't aware Tony was taking on that task.
Well, I prepared the draft easements for Sienna and Ravenna. She knows. And that Bob told me, and I have not, it's been a kind
Didn't
of
see the
week.
email,
I've
but the
not
other
seen the
ones.
email that
I
apparently
have no
Ed,
idea what they're talking about.
Apparently
I
Ed
have
had-
no idea. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea. what
Well, you
they're
haven't been
talking about.
involved in any of that easement. crap
Yeah.
over there.
apparently Ed Hedges sent an email to me or to Bob and Bob forwarded to me that listed the various
Some
other
other
monuments.
possible, because everybody's fact checking, double checking.
Okay, because I knew there was some, but I didn't know there were more. There's more?
I'm not sure there's more, I don't. you
Well,
know.
they're looking, they're, okay.
Okay, Ed, let's let Ed Hedges put together the list. Tony will review said list and then I will
Well,
work.
that's
with-
exactly what we're doing.
And then I'll work with Will, trying to make it as inexpensive
My only
as
point
possible.
is, it's back in Tony's court to write the language to get the easement.
All right, I will add that to his list.
Okay,
Well, no, the Form easement's already there. All I need to do is
just put the
plug
name.
in the different condominium association, it's recording information.
And just like we did with the other ones, when he gets the
Like a
documents, they'll
VIA.
come through you to me, I'll take them to the HOAs, they'll sign it or not.
Okay.
It's
If
it's
they
the
don't
same,
sign it, they maintain it, if they do sign it, we maintain it.
it's the same form of document, Chelsea, that we did for VIA. We've been carrying that along
Exactly,
pretty much since then.
yeah, and it's working real well. I think that's all I have.
Update on AG, where we at?
We're still in the multi-month queue, according to the staff person that my
Multi-month.
secretary told
No,
me. Nothing further.
No
To get a hold
timeline?
of them, they're just amazingly non-responsive, even trying to get to the right person to ask them. It takes days.
that's all I have.
Oh, and on that point, I provided Chelsea and Laura with my memorandum. I think you have it, right?
Yes.
With regards to my recommendation for reimbursement. That's going to be in the August 15th board meeting, you think? Or do you need to have the board bless that? I think they need to
I
make,
thought we were just gonna verbally do that here.
Yeah.
What-
There
Okay.
were invoices in question that from the HOA, that the HOA incurred
Oh.
as part of
And
this.
and Tony was gonna review it and let us know if it's a yes or no. for-
yeah, I've reviewed it and provided, I'll call it the gross number and lump
Okay.
sum to Chelsea, which I believe is an appropriate number. That
Inappropriate or appropriate?
And appropriate.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I
And
agree.
appro-
Big difference.
Yeah, I was like,
That's
let me get-
correct, for which the board has the ability to make the determination that the funds were primarily for a public purpose.
So as long as you all are okay and support his memo and his determination, we're gonna reimburse the HOA for those expenses.
And some of them have already been paid out of the O&M account, so I don't have to reimburse the full amount. I just have to do the
Partial.
difference between the ones that we agreed should be reimbursed and what they were.
And that was most of it, quite frankly. It was. And I had a nice conversation with their attorney, Katie Berkey, and we talked over a couple of the items, so.
Yeah. Can I get a nickel back? What's the status of the negotiations on the finances with Pelican?
We sent our response back 2 days ago and we're waiting on them to review all of Laura's documentation and her calculations of what we feel the district is owed.
And the
so-
auditors, and Jay
And
Gaines.
the auditors supporting of that number, so I'm waiting for their response and then a follow-up meeting in person to hopefully put this to bed.
Can I get a copy of that?
The
Whatever
email?
letter you sent over.
Yes.
Is it coming down to a coin toss?
Yeah. Carol? Comments?
No,
All right, all
Is
right.
it cold at that end of the room?
it is.
Okay, so.
Sometimes
motion
it's
to
cold,
adjourn.
sometimes it's hot. It's me, it's not the room.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Oh, hi. Yeah.